Hi everyone, and welcome to the Lure Fishing Project. This is the 2026 Daiwa Bream Series Crush City Tweed River round, which was run on the 1st and 2nd of August in 2026. Another very interesting round. I think we spoke to Steve Morgan. He said you either have good tweed or bad tweed, and this was definitely a little bit more towards bad tweed, but nonetheless a very, very good comp and some interesting results. What I'm going to do, I'm going to roll the intros and run through the bite periods and what have you, and then we'll get into the interviews. Here we go.
Welcome to the Lure Fishing Project, where Australia's best lure anglers share their tips and stories to help you catch more fish and have more fun on the water. Here's your host, Andrew D.
Okay, so we're going to jump straight into all the stats and what have you. So for this one, on the Saturday, we had 73 in the fish activity wheel with a minor bite period at 7:02 through to 8:38. Major bite period was right in the back end of the session at 12:31 p.m. through to 3:01. High tide was at 9:52 at 1.23. We're running down to a low tide at 3:25 at 0.38 of a metre. On the Sunday, the fish activity wheel was dropping, and this definitely proved to be the case. I mean, guys saying that they did better on pre-fish day, and then obviously Sunday was a tough day for a lot of guys. So on this Sunday, we had 61 in the fish activity wheel. The minor bite period was at 7:38 a.m. through to 9:08, with the major bite period being at 1:15 through to 3:45. High tide was at 10:33 at 1.25, running down to a low tide at 4:06 at 0.43. Now, I did start to do a little bit of research on this to see what the deal is with good tweed and bad tweed. So for this one, your winning bags, as we'll get through, we had 4.78 in the boating division and 2.61 in the non-boating division. So if we dial the clock back to last year, we have 5.40 in the boating division. So 700, 800 grams higher last year. And then in the non-boating division, we had, guess who? We had Lance Marsh again with 2.975. So obviously slightly bigger fish last year. And the year before, I couldn't pull the results from that, but that was the year that Mark Healy won it. I think it was back then, it was Battle of the Marks for Angler of the Year. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. We've got a bunch to get through. Let's get straight into the interviews. Here we go. Okay, so first up, in third place in the non-boating division, we have an angler dropping his 3 fish on Saturday, weighing 1.015, backing it up on the Sunday with 3 fish for 1.110, giving him a total of 2.125. And third place, I'd like to welcome back to the Lure Fishing Project, Colin Wilson. Welcome back, mate.
Thank you, Andrew. Yep, pleased to be back.
Yeah, mate, you've had a good year. We just spoke about you having a chat with us with regards to the New South Wales tournaments, fishing with Scotty, and now third in the ABT. It's pretty good.
Yes.
And also, given this weekend was so tough in the non-boaters, there was only 3 competitors that got their full bags, and that was obviously key to getting on the podium.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Yep. Yeah, having your limit each day definitely makes a difference or helps out.
100%. Now, obviously, you travel with Scotty. Tell us about pre-fishing. Did you get out there on the Friday and have a bit of a look around?
Yes, so we did get out there Friday. It wasn't straight out early in the morning, but we did get out in the water and I had a good look around in the system. I sort of we found fish pretty well anywhere where we went, off, Tweed. It does have edges and it has rocky edges. Does have sort of mangrove edges, has some flats in it as well, has some reefs in it. And pretty well, wherever we went and fished, we did find fish.
Okay. So that would have given you good confidence.
It did.
Mate, maybe false confidence.
Yeah, so it was confident, but sometimes it's false confidence because sometimes in the past we've went and pre-fished, found nice fish, and the next day it's totally different.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think some days it's better off you don't find them.
Yeah. Not a lot, but some people definitely say that, and some people go, I don't pre-fish anymore. We just go and fish the comp. So
Yeah. And when we pre-fish, if we find fish, if we know fish is there, we leave it. We don't stay there and just keep catching fish. If you pull the fish out, that's it. You just go away.
You're done. Yeah, which I think is smart, especially on a system like the Tweed.
Yes, yeah.
Very good. All right, well, let's roll into comp day, into Saturday. Who do you get paired up with?
On day one was Steve Lemsakianos. Yeah, Lemisakianos. That's him.
The one.
Lemisakianos. That's it. Yep.
That's it. And he's the one with the massive motor on the back. I still remember him from Australian Opens, like I think a 400 or something on it.
Yeah, with the 400 on, yeah. So it's a boat that can go quick.
Yes, and probably jumps off the line, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it can. And actually, like runs, well, nice and smooth. A really good ride. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think he's thinking about maybe upgrading too. Yeah.
Really? Upgrading boat or to a 500?
Boat-wise.
Boat-wise. Wow. Very cool. All right. Let's go into catching some fish. Obviously, it was a tough comp. How did you end up putting 3 in the well?
Yeah. So on pre-fish, I said, could go and find fish easy, and all the fish, I caught them on soft plastics. I tried hard bodies, couldn't get a fish. We had used crankers as well because going along the rocky banks, and they weren't doing much at all either. But with the plastics, I had no problem. Very confident, and so I knew this is what I'm going to throw on day one.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's it, yeah.
What was your go-to plastics?
So the particular one was a Sprat.
Okay.
And like I said, I did try other plastics, but the Sprat was the plastic lure that was doing the job on pre-fish.
Yeah. And I'm assuming it's the fork-tail one, the 75?
Yes, 75, yeah. 75 Sprat. It was in a darker green one, either a Sabre or Cleaver.
Cleaver.
So it was one of them, but it was a darker colour green.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. What do you pair that up with?
Oh, yeah. I can tell you, what I did. So anyway, so that was just with a jig head, probably a 1/16 jig head it was. So that's what I was confident. That's what I'm going to throw the next day. So off we go. Day one, we went upriver to start with to the first bridge up there and had running water. And we thought, I'll get something off the bridge. And we spent probably nearly 2 hours on the bridge.
Wow.
For one fish each.
Okay.
And Steve throws cranky crabs. And so he got one on a cranky crab, had a few hits on it, but just couldn't hook them up. The Sprat, I didn't use the Sprat there. I ended up using another gulp minnow, and I caught one brim with the gulp minnow, and that was it.
Ouch.
So after about 2 hours, we thought, we'll leave this now. Water tides come up along the rocky edges. So, and caught fish on the edges previous day before. And also Steve, he had a good day. He said he had no problem catching fish along the edges with the crab on his pre-fish. So, and that's what he sort of spent so much time on the ridge waiting for the tide to come up so the fish would come up on the edges. So that's what we went to then to do on edges. And I thought, you beauty, I'm going to throw my Sprat that I threw the previous day because I had no issue catching fish.
Wow. Okay.
So off I went with my Sprat. Never caught one single fish. And I tried it. I used that for 3 to 4 hours.
Wow.
It was so good the day before.
That's crazy.
And yet, it was. And yet Steve, he was using cranker crabs and he was getting fish.
Okay.
Going along. And then eventually I thought, Can't keep throwing this.
Yep.
And I did try a few other things and, other plastics. They wouldn't work. And so just swapped over, used a crank of crabs and then caught me fish.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how I ended up with my bag of fish. Yeah.
Wow. So crabs off the back of the boat. Did you get more than 3 or did you just get your 3?
Yeah. We was catching other, and there was a lot of fish that were like 1 centimetre undersized.
Yep.
So he was getting undersized fish.
Yeah, okay.
And same as Steve. I don't know, he'd catch 30 or 40 fish.
Yep.
But only managed to probably 6 or 7 legals out of 30 or 40 fish.
Yeah, right. At least if you're getting, even if they're not big fish, at least it's not totally boring. You're not getting nothing.
And that's right. It does, it does make a difference that you're catching fish instead of getting there and throwing and catching nothing. Yeah.
That's right. I mean, you're always thinking, I'll have to get 1 legal here somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, you just have to go through them. Yeah.
All right. Well, all in all, you got your bag, which on this comp was pretty great.
Yes.
Where were you overnight? Do you remember?
Overnight?
Yeah, I would have had you, with a quick look, I would have had you down at maybe 7th, 8th.
Yeah, I might have, yeah. And, okay, yeah. Hang on, yeah. I think it might have been round about 9th.
Yeah.
9th.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, so top 10.
Yes, yep.
Sunday morning, who'd you get paired up for Sunday?
So Sunday was John Siggs.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
Yep.
Cool. All right.
So being on day one, the fact that couldn't catch fish on plastics and crank of crabs where they go. So had 2 crabs already tied on, ready to go.
As you would.
That's what I'm going to catch them on.
Yep.
And 2 rods with just jig heads on them with no plastics on them at all.
Yeah.
And because I wasn't sure, where John was going to go. So in the morning, off we went, and the first place we went to and pulled up actually was a reef, and it had probably about 30 mil of water maximum over the top of the reef, washing across it with the tide. It was running fairly well. So when I pulled up there, and when I knew I was going to fish, I thought, well, if I'm going to throw a cranky crab, I'm going to lose it straight away.
Yeah.
Because it's going to go, to put it on the reef or try and pull it over it, it's just going to get snagged up.
Sure.
And so I thought, righto, going back to a plastic.
Yeah, okay.
So I went back and got a sprat, and I didn't pick a green sprat because that didn't work the day before. So we used one with like a bloodworm colour.
Okay.
And because I had to pull it out of a reef, I put it on a weedless hook.
Mm.
So I wasn't going to get fouled up. And so I hooked that up, threw it out over the reef, and then pulled it straight across it. First cast, bang, fish.
Nice.
And I thought, you beauty. And it was, a reasonable fish because a lot of fish were small. So the first one that came out was about a 28.
Yeah.
Tip of one. I thought, yep, that's a keeper. That's good. So got that, put that in, and it only probably 5 or 10 minutes, no more. Might even be 5 minutes. Same thing. I just, bang, hooked up again straight away.
Yeah, wow.
I thought, geez. And the second one, because after the day before, after sort of halfway through the day, they quietened down a real lot.
Yeah.
And always day two's a lot heavier. And there was people who didn't get their bags on day one as well. I thought, day two is going to be hard, and everybody thought it's going to be tough. And then when I got the second fish, I thought, oh, geez, this is turning out about different than what I thought,
Yeah.
And so got the second one, and that was a nice fish, a little bit bigger again. So I thought, oh, this is great.
This is good.
Yeah, this is going good. And then put that in live well. And John, he hadn't caught a fish, and he was pulling straight across the same reef as me.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't long, and I had my third fish.
Right.
And I thought, gee, this is good. So all within like half an hour,
Nice.
I've already got my bag limit.
Yeah.
And then John still didn't have a fish.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, to get my bag, feel nice and relaxed and comfortable that I know I've got that. And that was just on the sprats. And then we stayed there for a while, and John still didn't pick any fish up at all. So then day before, he found them easy on the edges as well, on the walls.
Yeah.
So he said, oh, we'll go back up the system. And we went up the system and fished walls. And I didn't pick another one up off the walls. And I changed, I ended up, was using plastics, couldn't pick any up, and then swapped over to using cranker crabs. And I still didn't pick one up.
Yeah, okay.
I think John may have picked one up, but it took a few hours before John actually picked the fish up.
Yeah, wow. That's rough.
Yeah, it was. And I felt a bit guilty. Yeah. And then probably halfway through the session, we went up and found go along, and there was an edge that we found that was shaded.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as we come along and had this shaded section, John threw in and he went, bang, and he caught a fish.
Nice.
And it was a nice fish. And then he caught his bag fairly quickly, all thrown right up against the bank in the shade.
Yeah, well.
And they must have been just sitting in that shaded area. Yeah, so he pulled his fish out of there. It's had his bag limit.
Yeah.
And he had one that was sort of just over legal.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd fished for a while. And then we decided to go back down to the reef where I caught my fish to start with.
Mm.
And I did have a few other fish on and sort of lost them.
Yeah.
And then we went back down to where I caught my fish straight away in the morning. And then John threw out there and he got a really good bite. He said, I've just had a darn good bite there.
Mm.
And then cast in again, and it was on, and he pulled a good fish out, a really nice fish.
Yeah.
And that got rid of his smaller one. And then we sort of then run around after that, because they only got the one fish out of there again.
Mm.
And then we started running around the system a bit, just trying to find some more. But it just seems as if they'd shut down.
Yeah.
For the last few hours, it was very difficult to catch a fish.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So that's sort of how the day finished up.
Yeah. Tell me, you had the worm hook or the weedless hook, were you running like a nail bomb, or what were you?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, nail bomb, yes.
And how heavy?
Yep. I think it's, 0.9
of
a gram. Yeah, that's a small one. Yeah.
Yeah, so just...
And then you get a 1.8 gram one, I think it is, and you get a 0.9, so it's a small one. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah. And then John, he was fishing using the eco gear, the shrimp, and he was using that on a pretty well weightless hook as well, and just throwing it and then just letting it drift down in the water a bit.
Yeah, okay.
And
so
they were just coming up and grabbing it.
Yeah, a brim prawn.
Yes, brim prawn.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the aqua.
Yes, the aqua one. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, very good, mate. Very good. Well, like I said in the beginning, mate, it was impressive to get your 6 fish for the comp. There's only 3 guys that could manage it.
Yeah.
And it was enough to bring you back in third.
Yes.
What did you get to take home? What was the prize pack for this one?
Yeah. So prize pack was the cranker crab prize pack, which was...
Nice.
Yeah. Great. Well, prize to win, because it's something you're definitely going to use, and they definitely catch fish. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that always looks like an impressive pack to me.
Oh, it is. Yeah. Yeah, very. For a brim fisherman, you can't get much better.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, last thing before we shoot off, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to or say thank you to?
Oh, yeah. Oh, and another thing, of course, the water had a bit of colour in it, a bit dirty. Just only used a 6-pound lead.
Okay.
Which is, normally I would fish a bit lighter.
Yep.
But didn't need it. On pre-fish, 6-pound, had no issue whatsoever. Right at the front of the system, it's like crystal clear water. But when I went down there, that wasn't a problem down there either.
Okay.
So, so got away with just
with 6 pound. Yeah,
gives you a little bit more pulling power, especially where reefy areas. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If you got to pull it over the top of a reef and get a fish out.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when, when I was with John, he was concerned that, we were going to get fouled up in the reef, because where they were and what we was pulling them out of, if they wanted to, they could have just buried themselves in there. Yeah.
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 All right. Well, yeah, like I said, last thing, if anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah. Well, definitely my wife letting me go away and enjoy myself at the fishing comps. And also Scotty, because I always go away with Scott, my son, and enjoy going away with him and fishing. And then my two boaters, Steve and John, excellent. Two guys, had a great time with the pair of them. They were really good. And Steve and Nicole for running the events. They just really appreciate what they do, running the events, and give everybody the opportunity to get out there and do something that they love. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thank you for me, from having you on your podcast.
No, mate, we appreciate you jumping on. It was a good story. I think this is the last interview that I'm doing, and I don't think anyone, from memory, caught fish on a sprat in this episode. So how good's that?
Oh, right.
Yeah, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But yeah, no, it's very, very cool.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Like I said, on pre-fish, no trouble whatsoever.
Yeah, wow.
The next day, nothing would even touch it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Never mind. All right, mate. Well, look, thank you so much for jumping on again. Yeah, good luck in the next one.
Yeah. I hope so.
All right,
yeah.
mate.
Hope I get to talk to you again.
Yeah, me too, mate. Me too. All right. You have a good night.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, mate. Okay, so up next in second place in the non-boated division, we have an angler dropping 3 fish for 1.185 on Saturday, backing it up on the Sunday with 3 fish for 1.390, giving a total of 2.575. And second place, I have Tom Guest. Welcome to the show, mate.
Thank you very much for having me, mate.
Mate, all the way from Western Australia, come across and take second. How good's that?
Oh, it's great. I was a little bit worried heading over. You hear a lot about the Tweed, and especially lately about how it's been fishing, and a lot of people were questioning me as to why I would go over for that event, because it's been regarded as a very difficult venue lately. But for me, it was very much a case of I don't know the venue, so it would be difficult for me either way, so it's a good time to go.
100%. And sometimes it's just a matter of if you can go and it's on that weekend and you've got the time off your toddle.
And that's it. That was the big thing for me this year. I sort of looked at my roster earlier in the year and looked at the event roster, and it all sort of lined up pretty well for a lot of the events. So I decided I would chase a few of the events in the second half of the year.
Yeah, very good. Very good. All right. So for this one, did you get a chance to get out in a boat and have a look around on the Friday?
No, I was feeling a bit crook on the Thursday. I was going to reach out to a couple of people and sort of see if anybody was willing to let me jump on the boat, but started feeling a bit crook on the Thursday. So I sort of figured I'd give it a bit of a miss and just go in without the pre-fish, because I didn't want to leave somebody waiting on the ramp while I'm crook in the hotel room. So I gave it a bit of miss, but I did come good on the Friday. And after a good sleep in, I sort of got up and went for a walk around a lot of the venue points that I'd heard about, just to sort of eyeball a bit of the ground so I could understand what I was looking at.
Yeah, okay. And coming over from West Oz, I've got obviously different systems and what have you. What did you plan to throw over here? What did you think you were going to get fish on?
Well, my biggest thing before going over was I sat there and I looked at YouTube and I looked at your podcasts and a few other things online about what the people do catch them on. And a lot of the stuff from the ABT videos previously was saying, you fish the bridges and the heavy, like the big structure like that, or you go into the canals. and you fish the canals on the bridges and the docks and everything like that. So I was going into it expecting to throw a lot of light stuff sort of beside docks or boats and maybe crank a few stuff or fish the deep structure on the bridges and stuff like that.
Okay.
So went in with a lot of expectation of doing that and basically did none of it.
Did none of that. Perfect. All right. Well, let's roll into Saturday. Who did you get paired up with and what did you get up to?
So on the Saturday, I got Drew Griffith. He's one of the local boys. Beautiful boat. If anybody gets paired with him, you're going to have a great day. He's a great bloke and that's an amazing boat.
Yeah, you'd expect nothing less from a boat builder.
Well, that's it. We went down the front and fished by the entrance. We sort of started on a bit of the rock walls and a bit of the reefs. We sort of stayed around that area for the entire, or most of the day, where a lot of boats were sort of coming. They'd fish it for half an hour, and then run off, and then you'd see them in a couple of hours. We hung around that general area for a good part of the day. I got a few fish there early on. Started off with a Rapala creeper.
Okay. Yep, the grub.
On the grub, and a whitebait sort of imitation from one of the random companies that I found in one of the random tackle shops, which is one thing I love doing, checking out the local tackle shops. Started throwing them, was only really getting the undersized fish. Then I swapped over to the Daiwa wave minnow in the motor oil colour.
Okay.
And with that tidal movement, I sort of put on the heaviest jig head I had at the time, which was a 1/8 Rapala jig head.
Yep.
Chucked a wave minnow on there and started fishing with that, and that's where I got my 3 fish from that general area. Just on the wave minnow. I sort of wanted to do the wave minnow with the tide movement, just having that tail giving it a bit of extra motion even when we're trying to hug the bottom.
Yeah. So was that just a matter of bouncing it down the rock walls? Is that kind of how it was?
A little bit of the rock walls, like you'd cast at the rock walls and work it back, but a lot of the fish that we found were sort of on that reef area. So back from the rock wall a bit on the corner there's a bit of a reef patch there. You'd either bounce it over the top of that or you would fish the sand patches near it. And they were just on that. And the hardest thing for the weekend, not just that Saturday, but the weekend I found, was keeping it close to the bottom.
Okay.
As soon as you went to too light of a jig head, you could not keep that jig down towards the bottom.
Okay. What sort of leader and line did you run?
So most of my rods are running braid from 8 to 12 pounds. A bit of a mix. I'm still in the stage of figuring out what gear I like and everything like that. So I've got a bit of a hodgepodge of different gear. A few Daiwa reels, a few Shimano reels, mostly Daiwa rods with the Shimano Zodius in there as well.
Okay.
But most of my leaders were running a 6 or 8 pound.
Okay.
Because I was expecting to fish some heavy structure, and then I had one in there which I was running a 4 pound for the lighter stuff.
Yeah. I was interested because obviously the leader makes a difference to how you get that lure down sometimes.
Yeah, I find it does. Most of the fish in that area I was catching on the 6 pound, I was more worried about getting reefed than anything else.
Sure.
Especially not knowing how the local fish act. I wanted to be a bit more secure on it. I know Drew was running a bit lighter leader on a lot of his rods. He was getting a lot more bites and he was getting some good fish on that day, but I was still getting enough fish, so I sort of stuck it out to what I knew before chucking on the 4 pound and going that little bit lighter to try and entice the bites a bit more.
Okay. And in terms of fish, how many did you get? Like you obviously weighed your full bag, but how was it?
Biggest thing that I found with the Tweed was I'm used to a lot of venues where you'll catch a lot of little small fish, undersized fish, and you catch maybe your 5 undersized fish to get your 1 size fish. With the Tweed, it was really interesting because I think I caught 6 or 7 bream for the day, and 4 of those were sized. So only 3 of them or so were undersized, which was really strange for me.
Yeah.
And basically it was a case of catching my 3 in the morning, and then when we went up down the river, to look at the rock walls and different areas, I managed to get a small upgrade for my smallest fish, which was a 26 tipper, which I really wanted to get out of the bag because I've had them shrink on me before.
Yes, you do need to get those. You want to get well clear of that.
Oh, yeah. It just takes that uncertainty out of the game.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, well, look, all in all, you ended up with 1.185 on the Saturday, which in the context of the competition was pretty good. Whereabouts did it have you overnight?
That had me, I believe, joint 6th position.
Yeah.
Which my objective going into the weekend was basically to try and get a top 10 finish.
Yeah.
I'd love to win it, but at the end of the day, all the events I'm going for, I'm just trying to get at least those high finishes so I can get some AOY points and hopefully get to Foster at the end of the year.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. 6th place over equals 6th overnight. Sunday. Who'd you get paired up with on the Sunday?
So Sunday I had Scott Wilson, very nice bloke. We sort of stuck to the same plan. I saw him down there first thing in the morning when I was down there with Drew. So we did the same thing where we ran down to the mouth sort of area, had a bit of a fish there. I managed to pull 2 bream off the reef again, using the same sort of technique, the wave minnow with the 1/8 jig head.
Yeah.
I got a sort of 27 and a 26 tipper. We were there for a little while and then we sort of tried moving around a bit. We ran back down the river, past the starting line, past the bridge, trying a few banks and stuff as we went. We ended up a fair way past the bridge and pulled up on a bank and I managed to get my 3rd fish.
Nice.
Which was just sort of pulled out of nowhere. There were little bites but no big fish again. So I pulled my 3rd fish out of there. We then went to the reef just on the ocean side of the bridge, down from the starting line, that everybody loves to sit on.
Yeah.
So we went down there and ironically when we got there was only one other boat there. We pulled up and they packed up and left. So we had the entire reef to ourselves.
Nice.
So we were sort of floating around that a little bit, was throwing out the same Daiwa wave minnow. I sort of figured it's working, don't change it.
Yeah.
And then I got myself a nice 32 tipper upgrade, I believe it was.
Yeah, very good.
Just from a random patch of the reef. I had a very exciting moment after that. I literally put that fish in the live well, put the other one out, cast out, hooked up again from basically the exact same spot. It was fighting a bit weird, but it was fighting real heavy and real hard. And I'm thinking, if this is a bream, this is going to be one of the ones that gets me right up there.
Yeah.
Ended up being a bloody golden trevally.
Oh, there you go. I thought that or a jack.
No, it was the golden. It had me very excited for a bit then. At first I thought it was a flathead and then I saw the silver flashes and thought, oh, I could be in here.
Yeah, that could be good.
Yep, ended up being the golden. So we stuck around there for quite a while and I upgraded again, got a 35 tipper.
Wow.
Thought I'd upgraded again, got a one that was the same size as what I already had, my smallest one. But it ended up being, while it looked fatter, it was actually skinnier. Luckily, I had my scales there to check.
Yeah.
And then we sort of potted around the reef. The reef got quite busy and quietened down a little bit. Still got a few little fish. Scott got a few of his fish, which increased his bag a bit. And then we went to some rock walls and kept trying along there. Unfortunately, I didn't have any success off of those ones. I was trying a crank crab there. Silly me trying to change up. But Scott managed to get his 4th fish, which was a nice one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just couldn't find that upgrade for that last fish.
Okay. It was pretty good. So it sounds like you got all your fish on the wave minnow?
Yep. Basically, everything that I caught and weighed in either came in on the wave minnow or at one point I ran out of the wave minnows just because I wasn't expecting to throw them that much, so I didn't have as many as I thought I would have. So I switched over to the Hurricane, the Sprat hybrid with the curly tail.
85, yep.
Yep. Basically, it was the closest thing I had in the bag to what I was already throwing, so I went with that, and one of my upgrades did come on that one.
Okay. And when you were fishing that, were you trying to keep in contact with the lure or were you letting it sink down on a slack line just to get it down?
I was trying to minimise the slack as much as possible, basically just trying to cast it out. I was trying to keep it in contact with the bottom or as close to the bottom as possible, and occasionally it would let it sit down there, especially when that current really started ripping. At some points you could cast 15 metres in front of the boat, and by the time it hit the bottom in 3 metres of water, it's alongside the boat.
Yeah,
so
wow.
You'd give it a couple of hops, let it sit there. A lot of the takes were on those pauses on the bottom.
Yeah, okay.
But at the same time, it's the old thing of if you got too much slack line, you get the bites but not the hook sets.
That's right, especially on a finicky bite.
Oh, yeah. So it was a very fine line. The biggest change I found for day 2 that I think helped me was probably just changing a couple more rods to that 4-pound leader.
Okay.
Once I was a bit more confident in the arena and not that I was going to get reefed everywhere, it was a lot easier to fish that 4-pound and didn't really lose any fish per se for breakages. And yeah, it was good.
Yeah, very good. So you spent a day with Scott and a day with Drew on a river you'd never fished. Tell me, did you learn anything in coming over to fish this event? Did you take anything home with you?
I take lots home every event that I go to. Probably the biggest thing that I learned from this one was a bit more about fishing those real tidal sort of areas. Like I've fished the tidal areas up north of WA when I've been fishing for the big fish, but that's all hard body lures and not chasing bream. So one of the things that I really took away from this event is over the last couple of years that I've been doing ABT is my tackle bag has got, lighter and lighter jig heads. You're always trying to make that real finesse sort of lure appealing to the fish. But with this event, it was basically don't worry about how heavy, you want the heavy weight to get to the bottom. So it was very much going back to that old school style of fishing.
Yeah, wow. Interesting. Very, very good. All right. All in all, look, you had a good competition. You got 2.575. You're only just a fraction behind Lance in first place.
Just a smidge.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a great event. And like I said, I love the ABTs. It's a great area where you can meet different people. I met a couple of the locals, met Timmy, who was his first event in the ABT, and he's a very friendly fella, just came up and having a chat at the briefing. And you get to meet all sorts of people and learn different things. And even some of the simple stuff that you think and, especially some of the guys that have been doing it for a few years, they just show you a little tip or trick that they've figured out over the time, and you do it and you go, why haven't I been doing this the whole time?
Yep. Sounds fair to me. All right. For second place in this one, what did you get to take home?
So I've got myself a rod, which I will butcher the name of. It's Artisan Shimano rod. That one.
Or an RTS, it's one of those two.
Yeah. It's a very nice little rod anyway from Shimano.
Yeah, nice.
And a spooler line.
Oh, very nice.
Nice little package to help me improve my game, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, very good. Okay, so look, last thing before we shoot off, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to or say thank you to?
Oh, I'd love to say thank you to the whole ABT team, not just Nicole and Steve who put on the events and go to all the hard work of doing all the little bits and bobs and that, but all the participants as well. Without everybody turning up and making it a good environment, it wouldn't be going.
Yeah.
I'd love to put a shout out to the sponsors as well. Without their help, it wouldn't be the same either. Apart from that, just, say thanks to my friends and family and all the people back home who have sent me the well wishes and congratulations.
Absolutely. Fantastic. All right. Well, mate, congratulations again. Thank you for coming on. And, mate, good luck in the next one.
Thank you for having me, and hopefully I'll get to talk to you again before the year's out.
Let's hope so.
All right. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate. Okay, so coming in first place in the non-boating division, we have an angler dropping 3 fish on the Saturday, weighing 1.35. Backing it up on the Sunday with another 3 fish at 1.235, giving him a total bag weight of 2.610. And first place for the second time in a row, I have Lance Marsh. Welcome back, mate.
Thanks for having me again, mate. Good to talk to you.
100%. I did see a post on social media with you your 2025 trophy and the 2026 one together. That's very, very cool.
Yeah, you did. I wish I could win the lotto, mate. That'd be really good too.
mate, maybe next time. Maybe next time you will win the lotto and then it won't matter.
No, that's right. No, it's fishing, mate. Sometimes it goes your way and sometimes it doesn't.
That's right. And this comp...
This is the first comp, the fifth one for the year? It's the first one I've actually... second one I've weighed a bag. So the rest haven't been flash.
Yeah. And look, you weighed bags in this one, and as we'll get into it, it was a tough comp for everyone. There's only three of the non-boaters that got their 6 fish, so that's pretty good going.
Yeah, no. It was hard. It was really hard work.
Yeah, the Tweed's been interesting like that. The last couple of years we've had some where it's been a fish fest and then others that have been really tough. So.
Mate, they were long days. You're just wondering what's going on. There's got to be, where we were, fishing the rock walls and stuff, there's bream there. They're there, but they just wouldn't bite for some reason. I was lucky, I think, really. Yeah,
okay. No, you got to take it when you can.
Yeah.
Very good. And as we'll get into it, mate, you had a special secret weapon anyway.
I did, yeah.
All right. Tell us about pre-fishing, mate. Did you get out and have a look around?
Yeah, look, Joel and I down on Friday. We hadn't been to the Tweed since the comp last year, so 12 months basically. There was the local series was planned for a few weeks before the ban, and the weather called that off, so that was going to be a bit of a look for us as well, but missed out sadly. But yeah, we did go down and have a pre-fish. We didn't fish that much. We just used the Lowrance gear, active target for some scope and looking around. We knew, because of the venue's small, 3 days flogging the hell out of it, it wasn't going to last. And I don't think it really lasted any more than pre-fish day, to tell the truth.
Yeah, okay. Got tougher.
With 30-odd, I think it was 38 boats, I'm not sure, all just having a little pick here and there. It makes a bit of a difference on that system.
Yeah, 100%. And how's Joel going with the Lowrance gear? Has he got the sounder dialed in and the active target working well?
Mate, it's working too well. I don't like it. That's why I like it down the back of the boat. When you can see those bloody things swimming around in front of you.
And can't catch them.
It's just tease, mate. It really is.
But it's such a good thing to actually know they're there. At least you go, well, I'm not casting at nothing.
Well, that's what we did on the pre-fish. We found some schools, just randomly everywhere.
Mm.
Yeah, I think he fished them the next day and he did all right the next day. So definitely made that difference, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I don't care, mate. I just, wherever I am, that's what you have to deal with it.
Yeah, well, that was the next question. Who'd you get paired up with?
Anthony Wishy.
Oh, no.
And Jody Kirkland, my mate from Sydney, ex-Cops Harbour boy, one of my family basically. Yeah, well, I had him the second day. We had a really good day too.
Okay. So when you got paired up with Anthony, what was the plan? What sort of structure were you going to fish?
Anthony's been fishing up here for a while. Wishy knows the area. So he had some sneaky little spots. And I honestly couldn't tell you where they were anyway, because I live 50 k's away, but just don't know these areas very well.
Names of them, yeah.
Yeah, and he just had some spots, and we went in the main river to start with, in the deep hole there, fished alongside Chrissy Hickson, and I think Cashy come down a bit later on, and we're all like 20 foot apart.
Yeah.
Fishing. You get, like Chris said, the school's there. You can see the school, and Wishy doesn't have the technology there. I think his database in his head's better than the electronics, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
But Chris was saying they're there, and we both, I think Wishy got a couple first up, and I got one that was 26.5, and I said, well, that's better than donut, you know what I mean?
That's right.
But it was just so quiet there, and still a little bit of tide. Boys reckon we need a bit more tide on it, but they were there, but just weren't biting, and didn't matter what you chucked at them. They were just, I don't know whether it was the big full moons and they were feeding at night. I don't know that stuff very well.
Yeah.
It was just tough.
I think that's part of it. It doesn't always happen, but sometimes it definitely happens.
Yeah.
And you sometimes notice, I think, the bite later in the day when that's happening.
Yeah.
So you got the first one. What did you get the first one on?
But there's actually a little gulp nemesis, the little grey looking one. I can't remember the colour.
Oh, like maybe smelt.
Smelt, yeah, the smelt one, which we was using. And I thought, well, when in Rome, do what the Romans do. He said, give this a crack, Lance. And it's a bit smaller profile than what I was using. I was using a big grub to start with, just a Z-Man grub, because that worked there last year. So I thought, well, here we go. I'll try that again. And I think I did actually get that fish on the grub. Not sure, but anyway, after that we put the smelt on, and there was lots of timid little bites, you know what I mean? Just nothing committing. So, but the smaller profile, I think, definitely made the difference.
Okay. And then where'd you move off to? Did you stay there for a while? Or?
Yeah, we were there for a while. We outlasted everybody, I think, there. But then he said, I've got a couple of spots here in the shallow. He was just waiting for the tide to do its thing a little bit, I think. And, so we went up Talabudra?
Yeah, I think so.
Up the arm there, and just fished like Morgo was doing along the edges.
Yeah,
and,
okay.
There was only, it was only shallow. It was probably like half a metre we were throwing into, and the fish were there. It was we must have been lucky that there was just a spot that everyone else drove past. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And we bagged, both got our bags along the flat, and drifted up a bit further. Funny looking pontoon thing there that people tend to put in the rivers for some reason. And I pulled out a 32 forker, which I was tickled pink with, because it just made everything else look fairly small in the bag.
Yeah.
And, then another 28 forker, I think.
Okay.
And and pretty much that replaced two of them out of my bag, and I got another 26 forker on the way back in the main part of the river. Just outside the reef where everyone was fishing there. And that was pretty much our day.
That was your day. And did you get did you get most of those on the Nemesis throughout the?
No, they were all on the Aquas. Sorry, I forgot to tell you, I changed tack there in the shallow water.
Yeah. Okay. So on a worm hook.
Yes, just a worm hook, just letting it float around, mate. Which he said, don't worry about throwing it out there where it's daylight. Get into the shade. And so, he just let me cast wherever I felt like it. Not that I'd cast in front of him anyway, but he just said, mate, just cast wherever you feel like it.
Yeah, nice.
If he was playing a fish or putting a fish in the well, I'd sort of go up the front a bit for him, but he doesn't have a spot lock. So I had to use the foot pedal. But
somebody's got to drive.
Yeah. No, it was just a long, hard day, but they were up in that real shallow water right on the edge.
Yeah, okay. Well, the aqua's perfect for that.
Yeah.
And
the funny thing was, that day there's so many short strikes as well. Usually they put an aqua in their mouth, they've got it.
Yeah.
There's only a few committing. You could see them swimming around with it in their mouth, and they weren't actually swallowing it. They were just had it in their lips, basically, and you sort of let them go, hoping one of the bigger ones would grab it. But no, you'd watch them swim around for 10 minutes if you wanted to.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, it was shallow, clear water. It was not what I'd usually go for, that's for sure.
Yeah, okay, interesting. But looking at the results, it looked like you might have been in maybe fourth place after day one.
Yeah, fourth place, yeah.
Yeah, with the biggest bag at 1.655, so Michael Mass.
Yeah.
So, very good. All right, so for day two, so you had Anthony Wishy and Judd. You had Judd.
Yeah, completely different day, fished deeper water along the walls. I started out just throwing the crank crab because I did well on that last year. That's in the deeper water. So you just go back to what you know.
Yeah.
I probably fished for an hour and did not even get a touch.
Wow.
Didn't get a touch. If you're not going to get a touch on a wall on a crab, it's going to be tough. So I did what I normally do and just put the old Z-Man prawns on and just soaked it up in juice and put a pretty light jighead, actually, only a 20th, and just chucked it in and let it float around in the tide, basically. And then, I was pretty much didn't feel a bite. But
really?
but yeah, you just wound up the slack and there was a fish hanging on it. So
What's that?
yeah, it was a bit like that. But I was just thinking, when you see a prawn sort of swimming past, they're either on the surface or they're on the bottom. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I was thinking, if I just went, everyone else is fishing the bottom, I might just let it drift around on the top and see what it did. And it actually worked. I don't know whether that's method in madness or not, but I was getting the bites.
Yeah. And you said that was the Z-Man prawn?
Yeah, just the dirty oil motor oil, that greeny colour. They're pretty standard in my tackle box, so I quite like them.
Yeah, yeah. And in terms of getting fish for the day, did you get a bunch or did you just get 3? Or?
I had a bag probably by lunchtime, I reckon.
Okay.
And we had a couple of moves and it wasn't doing it. So we went upstream to Chindrawar and just fished along there. Mate, there's boats everywhere. It was hard to pick a spot.
Yeah, right.
That someone hadn't already fished, but went to Chindrawar and I think I got an upgrade first cast there.
Wow.
Which was, when I'm saying upgrade, mate, I'm saying it's probably maybe a centimetre upgrade.
Yeah, but that was the win.
Well, yeah, maybe. Yeah, true when you think about it. Yes, that's right. But I put this is a new one to me, the pop prawn, the MMD pop prawn on the 60 mil one.
Right. Okay.
In, what's it, bloodworm. I was just thinking, it's about time I bloody tried something else. So I put it on and first cast I got a 29 forker.
Yep.
And same thing, I just put a really light jig head in that at 20th and it was just letting it. It's only a couple of metres deep along the wall.
Yeah.
You know. I thought I'd just let it go there. I got a little jack. I got a pike, big pike thing. And then I got another bigger brim, probably, I think he's 27 fork.
Okay.
And I think I've found a new thing that I like, actually. That I'm going to try them a bit more, but that was the first time I've actually tied one on.
Wow.
But they seem to do the job.
That's risky business, Lance, mate. You're defending champion. You're trying new lures on comp day.
Oh, well, that's the time I get to fish, mate. It's comp days.
Fair enough. Fair enough. They're a very nice looking prawn. I do have a couple of packets. I couldn't remember them, but I do have a couple.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, they're a tough thing. They're hard to put a jig head in.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know what it is about them. They're a prawn. I guess everything eats a prawn in the river, but I was just throwing it very light.
Yeah.
I think that's might have been the difference because I think most people put a heavy jig head on, when it's so the current's ripping a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the fact that you caught a couple of fish is impressive. Like, it was a tough day. Only 3 full bags in the non-boaters. So if you got more than 3.
Yeah. I think I probably upgraded my bag a couple of times each day. So
yeah,
it was just a slog, mate.
Yeah.
Like I said, though, I did have the advantage on the second day.
Tell us about that. What was going on there?
My granddaughter made a magic good luck potion for me in this little bottle with the cork on the top.
Yep.
It's just got some glitter in it. And she said, "Pa, this is a good luck charm for you." So she put it in my bag. I felt really bad because she gave it to Joel the day before and Joel did really well. Then she took it off him and gave it to me. So sorry, Joel, but yes, I took it off you.
Yep, that's what happens. And, mate, you were able to win. But Joel, in fairness, Joel did very well as well. So
yeah, he did. Yeah.
Very good, mate. Well, look, the only other thing to ask really is what sort of line class were you running for the weekend? How heavy were you fishing?
Just the J-braid, Daiwa J-braid, mate. 12 pound, I think it is, a standard one. And X-Link FC, the 4 pound.
4 pound. Yeah, so relatively light.
Light as I went. I was a bit worried because Wishy was using 2 pound straight through and 3 pound, and I'm going, oh, bloody hell, this is going to be twice the size. So, anyway, yeah, it worked. It was good.
Yeah. No, that's pretty good. All right, mate. For this one, I think you got a pretty good prize pack. What do you get to take home?
Good. The big Daiwa prize pack again, mate. Yeah, all the jigheads that I lost on the weekend are back in there, so that come in handy, and a heap of plastics, a few hard bodies, and a Tweed black reel, which will really come in handy, 2,500 one, and the big trophy, mate.
The big trophy. So you got a set.
So I've got three of those now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's very, very good. All right. Well, look, last thing before we shoot off, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Oh, firstly, Joel for tagging me around, mate. Yeah, I couldn't do it without him, really. Yeah, Nicole for doing a fantastic job organising the comps. Stevie, I think, gets the limelight, but Nicole does all the work. Daiwa for sponsoring the series. Rapala for sponsoring this event. You for getting the word out there, mate.
Thank you.
And the family always help us out, and it was really good to come home to our own bed for this comp. But yeah, that's a bit Wishy, just a fantastic guy. If anyone gets to go non-boating with Wishy, they've won the lottery. It's a great day. He's just so helpful, and he can't help you enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was great to go fishing finally with Juddy. We've been talking about it for a long time, and finally got the opportunity. So thank you, Juddy. We had a good day too. Sorry he couldn't get his bag, but I felt so bad about pulling a few in front of him, and he couldn't get his fifth shift fish. But sorry, mate, but you'll make up for it, I'm sure.
That's right. I'm sure he will. Very, very good. All right, mate. Well, look, another great win, mate. I look forward, if they run to the Tweed again next year, I'll be watching to see what
I think I might go out on top now, mate. I think I might just sit the next one out.
Call it a day? Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. But I bet you don't. All right, mate. Fantastic, mate. Thank you so much for jumping on.
Good on you, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, mate. Okay, so first up in the boating division, in third place, we have an angler dropping 5 fish on the Saturday at 2.490. Backing it up on the Sunday with 2.205, giving him a total of 4.695, which was a tie. Anyway, we're going to get into the separation of that in a minute. With me on the line, I have Steve Morgan.
It's been a busy year, Deethy. I looked at the stats the other night, and in Bream qualifiers this year, I haven't come worse than 8th. It's been a really consistent year for me. I normally have a couple of bangers that I have to throw out, but in AOY at this event, upgraded from an 8th to a 3rd, and I was pretty happy with that. So we've been having a few conversations, which I also like.
We have had a few conversations, and I think out of all of them, that was probably the worst introduction I've done.
Nah, it's all right, mate. We're all human, mate. It's like, how do you make it different? It's like, this guy caught Bream. Here he is.
That's right.
At least you said my name right this time.
Yep, fair enough. I have done that too. All right, let's go over the first thing. Let's talk about the tie. So you had a 3-way tie between you, Chris Lonnie, Steve Morgan, and then Chris Hickson. Tell us how you guys separate that for people who wouldn't know.
So if you're new to ABT, we try not to have ties at all, if at all possible. So we go back to who caught the biggest bag over the tournament. Now, it could be day 1 or day 2. If your 4.695 was anchored like Chris Lonnie's by a 3.08 kilo bag on day 1, he gets the higher place. And then my biggest bag was 2.49 kilos, so I got the next highest place. And Chris Hickson's biggest bag was 2.445, so he got the 3rd biggest place. So in this case, consistency didn't reward Chris. Being spectacular on one day did reward Mr. Lonnie. So that's how we do it in ABT. And as an aside, for Angler of the Years, so we don't ever have tied Angler of the Years, if we have people that say if you tied on the same number of points for AOY at the last event, we split that by who comes the best in the last event. And if you didn't go to the last event, well, the guy who went to the last event gets it. So there's always a way of splitting a tie for us. Unless you catch exactly the same weight on exactly the same days, then we can have a tie. In an app tournament, we split ties by, like if it's Big Bream and there's a tie for Big Bream, it's who caught it first. And in an event, if people caught, again, it's the biggest bream gives the higher place. So we always have ways of separating ties because no one wants to cut a badge in half or give away half. The prize packs are all sorted out. We just want to give them away and go home at the end. We don't want to give them a running race down the bank or any Ironman challenge or anything like that.
Oh, that'd be so much better. A running race.
I reckon Chris is a lot younger than me, but I reckon I'd nearly have him covered over 100 metres. Pretty good over a short distance.
Oh, I'd love to see that. That would be good.
Be hamstrings busted all over the joint.
That's right. Everybody be sitting down, mate. You'd need a kayak. Well, there you go. All right, let's get into it. So, mate, you did do a bit of a pre-fish. Tell us about your pre-fish day.
Yeah. For me, the Tweed is probably my most local river, as in, not the closest to me, but the one I probably fished the most, both in tournaments And socially, because when we were kids, we the mum and dad had a beach house down at a place called New Brighton, and it's only it's less than half an hour away from the top of the Tweed up at Mawillimbar. So if we had the little boat, wanted to go somewhere, and we were tired of going to the Brunswick River, which was 5 minutes away, we'd drive 25 minutes away, put in the top of the Tweed, and there'd be plenty of bass and plenty of bream. Summertime, a great topwater bite at the top, and at this time of year, you'd get a few spawning bass down there as well. So I know the river pretty well, and I know that for maybe 2 of the last 4 events, we've had really good spawn bites in the bottom of the river where the spawn fish were really played. You needed 3 to 3.5 kilos a day to be up there. And what I wanted to do on the practice day is to find out if it was going to be good tweed or bastard tweed. And so when it's good, you need 6, 7 kilos to win. When it's not good, you need 4 to 5 kilos to win. And I've won I was only just fixing some stuff up earlier today, and I found in the 2010, I won the Tweed with 2 kilos on one day and 2.2 kilos on another day. So 4.2 kilos, which would have been good for 8th place in this event. Won an event there in 2010. And there's lots of theories for this. Some people, this is me in all my different hats. So I think sometimes the netters don't work it real hard and then they get up from that legal size. It's because we had a few years where it was real good, and then all of a sudden one year, even on the good spawn times, there's not many bream in the river. So either they don't come in or they get hammered when they're in the river. Because back in the day, Tweed was traditionally a 50-fish day and 5 of them would be legal. It was easy to catch fish, hard to catch legals. So on the practice, all I wanted to do was to run a few of my spots and to find out, 1, if the sporting fish were there, and 2, if they weren't there, just check a few of my historical spots to see if they were there. Now, the thing is, you can't hit them too hard. I can't go along a bank and just catch 10 fish off it, because the next day I'll go along, I'll catch 5 fish off it, and the next day I'll go along and catch 2 fish off it. So my pre-fish involved checking a few deep water spots. The bridge, some of the deeper holes, I didn't see many fish at all on live sonar, and what I did see was small. So I sort of wiped that out in the first hour. That was all gone. Then I hit some of my spots up Terranora Arm. There's 2 arms to the Tweed River. The Tweed itself runs to the south, down behind the coast, and the Terranora Arm runs west into 2 little lakes. And the Terranora Arm, I went up there. I fished one spot, one little run of mangroves that I like fishing with an aqua, and I saw one big one come out, and it ate it, and I didn't set on it. I just put a little bit of pressure on. I popped it out of its mouth, and when it spat it out, I wound it in and said, right, I'm not going to fish any more of my spots up here. I went back out the Terranora Arm and I ran right up to the top of the main arm of the river to see if there were any fish there. So I went up there. I fished a couple of deep holes at the top to see if there were any bream. There weren't. I came back down a little bit. I found one big fig tree. I did the same thing. I skipped an aqua in under it. Straight away, a big fish went donk and ate it, and I didn't set on it. I just sort of leaned on the rod gently and it spat the hook out. And so I didn't even know if that was a bream or a bass, but I wound it in and I left that area. And then I just ran down the river every 3 to 4 Ks. I just stop and check a spot, hit a rock bar here. I did find one school of deep fish in a hole near a place called the Piggery, which is probably only a third of the way up the river, but I couldn't get those to bite. I was trying vibes. I was trying deep stick minnows, hybrid shrimps, plastic jighead. I spent probably half an hour on these fish trying to get them to bite, and I couldn't get them to bite. So my plan was ignore the bridges, ignore the deep fish, just go and do my run of mangrove edges in Terranora Arm and then bail out of there when the tide got high and go up the river. So that was the plan.
Yeah. Okay. Very, very good. Mate, before we get into comp day, there's 2 things that I want to ask you about that I've noticed in your fishing. First of all is, let's just call it the pistol grip, where you've got a finger down the spool. Do you want to explain that?
So this is how you hold a thread line, like a brim light, one-hand casting spinning outfit to get accuracy. Yeah, so, and I teach people this a lot when I go, if people want to learn, I'll teach them this. So instead of just having your hand around the butt of a rod and maybe your second hand holding the line as you're casting, that doesn't give you much control. Or even having your fingers around the reel stem and then holding your hand around the rod and then just hooking the line under your finger, that also doesn't give you much control over the line. The best way I find to cast brim outfits is whichever finger it is where it makes your hand hold nicely, you shove the reel stem between either your little finger and your 4th finger, your middle and your 4th, your index finger and your middle finger, whichever one's comfortable for you, so that your index finger sits on the lip of the spool. And if it sits on the lip of the spool, it can hold there nicely when you're casting. And when you're casting, you just let your finger up off the spool. And when you want to slow your line down or stop it, you just put your index finger back on the spool. Now, you can feather it or you can just put it straight down. That will make your casting, and it might take you a day to master it, but it'll make your casting so much more accurate, so much more controllable than if you're just like throwing and letting go. Because when you do that, you nearly have to grab the line with the other hand. It's nearly impossible to feather it properly. And if your lure is headed for in a tree, it'll end up in the tree because you might be able to react fast enough to do it. So two skills that you really need to master if you want to master finesse fishing, not just for bream, for all sorts of species, is that finger on the edge of the spool. And then the second thing is laying your line down once you've cast. So there's no use making the world's best cast and land on the edge of a moored boat, on the edge on a snag, and then have the wind blow your line out, billowing into a big semicircle between the lure and your rod tip. Because as soon as you flip the bail arm over, that wind is just going to drag that lure away from the mark. And if you want to sink that lure into a snag or into an undercut, or you want that lure to come back along a certain line, if you don't lay your line down properly, it will never, ever do it. And I've had a lot of non-boaters I've fished with that may not have mastered the skill, and they're asking, why am I not catching as many fish? I go, dude, you got to lay your line down properly. You got to accurate and then lay it down. And the way you lay your line down is I've got my finger touching the edge of the spool. I'll make that cast, and as that lure is just about to land in the right spot, I'm feathering it down to hit the water. So as the lure hits the water, the line's as straight as it's going to be. And then as soon as I land it, I put that rod tip in the water and I lay the line down on the water surface. And then the wind's never going to pick braid up off the water and blow it away unless you leave that slack in the line for it to do it. So if you stop the thing, lay it down, and then actually even give it a little bit of slack and leave that slack on the water, doesn't matter if it's blowing 20 knots, it's not going to blow that line away. And I'm going to sink that lure supernaturally exactly where I cast it. Yeah. And look, it's probably something, if you're listening to this in a car, it's probably something that's more visual than I can describe. But all I'm doing is just making sure that there's a straight line between where I am and where the lure is, and I can throw slack into that line and do whatever. But if you don't do that, you are doing yourself a serious disservice in your bream fishing.
Yeah.
Now, learn to cast properly. Like, accurately is important, but just as important is to lay the line out. In fact, it's probably more important. A bad cast where you've laid your line down is better than an awesome cast where it's billowing and just getting dragged out of the strike zone.
Okay. And to be fair, I do have a video feed here. I might actually cut a bit of this out and
you can lift any of my casts out, apart from casts after which I say that was the world's worst cast, which does happen many times a day if you screw up.
I heard you say that in the weekend. I'm sure you got a fish. Yeah, that was a bad cast.
So sometimes if it's a bad cast, like if it lands 5 feet away from where you want it to be, but I can lay the line down and it can sink straight. 5 feet's not far in clear water for a bream to come and eat it. So a lot of the time when I'm fishing moored boats in Sydney Harbour, Lake Macquarie, any of those big moored boat places, remember those boats are swinging around, and if the fish are on the bottom and I land at 8 feet away from the boat, I'll still fish it, because by the time it gets to the bottom, the boat could probably be over it, or as it's sinking down in clear water, they can see it. Like on live sonar, you can see them. It's 15 feet above them, and some start swimming up towards it. They know it's there, and it's not under the boat, I'm not going to eat it. They never say that. They just go, I just want to be the first one there to get it. So there's nothing wrong with not having perfect cast fishing moored boats. It's more important to have it sinking naturally in that clear water. So yes, sometimes, and look, other times you make a cast and you go, that thing is definitely going to catch a fish, and it does, because you just know where these little points are. And I suppose that rolls into the first day of fishing. The way I fish those mangrove edges is I'm looking for irregularities in the mangrove edge. If it's just a standard mangrove edge, nice drop off, bit of an undercut, a lot of nice shade, but the current is just running nicely along it, there's probably not that much chance there's going to be a fish there eating. But if I get to a place where a mangrove sticks out into that current, and it's like, I'll call them a mangrove knuckle, if there's a knuckle sitting under the current, the bream are definitely always going to be sitting on that knuckle with the current coming into their face looking for food. And there are all these little, and you might be one of those every 20 metres along the bank. There'll be this little knuckle, little pressure point, little snag, and that's where I'm going to be concentrating my casts, because why cast in the low percentage spot when I can cast in the high percentage spot? So I'm looking for those little, and it doesn't have to stick out far. It might only have to stick out 2 or 3 feet. Sometimes they stick out 10 feet. Sometimes it's a snag. Sometimes it's there's one in my highlights on the second day. There's one where a snag comes up and I say, I'm going to catch something off this snag because it's such a perfect, in the current, only tree in the paddock, if there's any bream within 50 metres, it's going to be on there. So you throw in, it gets sucked under the log, you see your line tick, and it's not unexpected when you get fish in some of these spots. So my whole pattern is throwing that unweighted Eco Gear Aqua. It's a 50 mil bream prawn in salt and pepper. It's paired with that Magic Beak #1 Van Fook worm hook. Adam from fishing.com.au, he loves selling it to people. It's the perfect combination to have a horizontal sink. It gets a little tiny wobble as it sinks down. And because it's white in the clear water, when I see the white disappear, I might necessarily see the fish, but if the white is all of a sudden gone, I'm striking because those bream often are very camouflaged with the bottom. And as soon as I see that bait go missing, I'll set the hook. And one of the cool things about not having trebles on this lure is that if a little fish grabs it, I call it T-barring. They actually get that aqua, they bite the aqua like a dog biting a bone, right? So it's side on. You can see that a bit of white at each side of their mouth. If I want to have a lucky shot at a small fish, I might strike on that and maybe 1 in 3 fish I'll hook because it might get him in the side of the mouth. But what I can do is just apply a little bit of pressure to that fish or pull it away from the fish and it might spit it out. And it is the best presentation for a big bream, having a little bream spit it out because they're all very competitive. And the big bream's like, oh, that little one's got something I want. As soon as it pulls out of his mouth, they come in and they grab it. So very, very often you can have a little one there, pop it out of its mouth. Another little one might grab it, pop it out of its mouth. As soon as one grabs it, you think's legal or you want it, set the hook on it and you can get it. So that's the technique that I caught, I reckon, 9 of my 10 keepers on for the weekend. That I use an in-feet, it's a 7'4" solid tip rod, an in-feet EX. For the aqua, I use quite heavy braid. It's like a PE6 or PE8. And on the weekend, I was using heavy leaders. I think it was 8, and I think I even had 12 on some of my rods. It's like when they're in that close and there's a lot of current, the leader size isn't that important because they're more going to grab it out of your reaction than waddle over to it and then look at it and then sniff it. And they don't have that chance to do it because the strong current sort of keeps them away for it. So I was definitely wanted to, any big ones that got it into their mouth, they're so rare on the Tweed, the fish over 30 centimetres, I wanted to land them. So that was why I had the heavy leader. And if that cost me a few bites, that was all right because I just didn't want to lose the 30 or the 32 or the 29 that you hooked up.
Yeah. Now, I did see you with a new rod out of Daiwa, and you said it's better.
So it is. So it's interesting. It's a new prototype they've got. It's for a new series of bream stuff they got coming out. Can't tell you too much about it, but I did actually ring Braden after the Tweed and I said, I actually like your prototype better than the EX. And they said, yeah, well, and he's all said, why do you like it? I said, well, it's a little bit softer. It's a little bit more forgiving. It's the same taper. It's still a very fast taper, but you just feel that in your casting, there's just a little bit more forgiveness because it's not as fast, the recovery. So it's just a little bit more forgiving when you cast, a little bit more give when you set the hooks. So I can fish quite a heavy drag, but I thought, they're sort of the same as each other. But after spending 3 days on these 2 rods, and I rigged both of them up, and one I would bust off, I would use the other one. I end up using both of them for about half a day each, every day. It just felt nicer in the hand. Some of it's a little bit difficult to describe, but just that little bit of extra softness. And then when Braden said, he goes, yeah, it's actually 1 grade lower of graphite than the EX models. And I thought, well, that's actually better. Sometimes not the highest modulus is the best. Sometimes if it's got a little bit more resin in it, a little bit softer, it just feels a little bit better in the hand. And that was where I got to with that rod in particular.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice. All right, let's roll into Saturday, mate. Tell us about how you put a couple together.
So Saturday, had a non-boater, Paul Vandenboom. He's actually an old-time ABT guy. Like he probably fished his last tournament 10 years ago. We actually had probably 4 or 5 guys that we hadn't seen for a decade turn up to the Tweed. So it was great to see some of those old guys. Great to see some new guys. And I said, dude, this is the Tweed. It's probably the same as last time you fished it. We're going to be fishing edges, fishing natural stuff. Live sonar literally didn't play at all, I think, in this event. It was all just fishing what you could see and doing natural stuff. So I think we both had limits, not in the first hour. The first hour was sort of slow because sun was sort of behind a cloud. It was might have been a little bit drizzly. It was just sort of didn't feel right until the speed of that tide picked up. And as soon as the sun came out and the tide picked up, the fish really positioned in the spots and we got a limit pretty quickly then. Maybe by 8:30, something like that, we would have both had limits. Mine on the unweighted aqua, he was using a really light jig head with his aquas and throwing them in there. And that was all up in the Terranora Arm. I start fishing the Terranora Arm basically as soon as you get under Boyd's Bay Bridge, which is the bridge that we all used to race for if the spawning fish are there. I drift past everyone fishing Kennedy Drive, which is another sort of mid-water spot that everyone fishes spawning fish in. And then I just work with the tide. It was a run-up tide each of the days. And I work up just fishing all of the little points and sort of out of the ray spots. If I showed you what the spot looked like, it'd just look like a mangrove edge. But in reality, the spots I fish have current hitting them and they have the little knobs sticking out and little snags sticking out that hold the fish that are very, very difficult to see as you're driving past. So for me, I fished, and that was always the plan, was to fish that until halfway through the session. As the tide gets up in those mangroves, you get to the point where the water floods up into the pneumatophores and the bream can actually literally swim up and into places you can't catch them. So the top part of the tide, I wanted to get out of there, and because the fish can disappear, like that first half of the running is the best time to fish it, even though it might look a little bit low. So halfway through the session, we took off out of Terranora Arm and went up the main arm of the river. We went to a sneaky little spot, which is a little channel behind an island, and actually caught 2 or 3 more fish in there that were, I think one of them may have contributed to the limit. And then after that, once we had decent limits, I sort of did a little bit of pre-fishing for the next day. I didn't go right up the river, but I just went up and we fished a few sort of random banks. Now, I did catch late in the session probably 2 more upgrades on aquas again, but in an upriver spot. Now, the difference between the upriver spot and the Terranora spot was the Terranora spot on the high tide, the water gets out, the fish can get away from you. The riverbank spot that I fish, it's a riverbank, right? So as the tide goes up, the fish can go up the bank, but they can't escape into a mangrove edge or a mangrove forest. So as the tide goes up, the fish would move up the bank, but they're still accessible. So the upgrades I got were both on just natural structure. They were either cotton trees or mangrove trees or snags coming out, where I'd flick the aqua in, drift it down to maybe under the snag, under the shade, into the structure, and just watching the line. And 90% of the time you can see the fish eat it, but 10% of the time you just see your line dart, and as soon as that line darts, you can set the hook and away you go.
Yeah, and I think in one of the times we've discussed this a few times, that you set the hook hard, and for 2 reasons. One, it puts the hook in, but 2, I think you said that it pulls it out of the water that quick that bream doesn't know where it went, and you can go back in if you miss
100%,
it.
Yeah. And I learned that when we used to do the same technique or a similar technique with pink grubs, the old Eco Gear grass minnow mediums in Okiyami colour. It's like a glow-in-the-dark pink. And we would fish those like a prawn, and you would wind it and roll it across the top until the bream came and hit it. And when it hit it, you'd stop. And when it ate it, you'd set the hook so hard that if it didn't hook in the fish, the lure would go and it'd fly out of the water, and the bream would be always looking around going, where did that prawn go? And so if you set hard enough, yes, the lure goes so far away from the fish that they're probably likely to eat again. So I'll wind in, sometimes have to fix the aqua up, throw straight back into that spot. And very often if there's a pack of fish, you'll get another bite straight away on it. So, but sometimes they rip the aqua off, or they bundle it up, or sometimes if you've hit them and you've moved them a bit and they spook, they might take the wolf pack with them. So yeah, it's always worth having another cast back into that spot really quickly.
Yeah, very cool. All right. In terms of your day, did you drop any good ones?
Not really, actually. I think the whole tournament, I didn't lose much that I thought, Corby. It was pretty good execution. And I was actually pretty happy with this event because I worked out in the pre-fish what I thought the pattern was, and it worked out to be right because I didn't come back to the weigh-in and there weren't 10 guys who caught massive bundles of fish out of spawning fish. So I was right that I didn't find it. And I was smart enough to leave a lot of my good stuff alone. I didn't go and belt it all on the pre-fish. I had enough experience there where I could just sort of leave it. So weighed in that 2.49 kilos on day one. And in my Tackle Fridays the day before, I would have been happy with anything over 2 kilos. So I was half a kilo above par. And 2 kilos was right up in the top third of the field. So my assessment of the river was good, and I thought I was withheld enough to not belt the stuff on the pre-fish day.
Yeah, very, very good. With both days, like it's good for us to have the chat here, but people can go back and jump on YouTube and watch your highlights and actually see exactly what we're spoken about.
Yeah, if you want, you can watch the whole 6 or 7 hours, or you can watch the 15-minute abridged version, and you can watch it. That's on Steve Morgan Fishing on YouTube. You can go and watch those. I know normally around 2,000 people a day tune into the live stream, and then normally around 1,000 to 1,500 will come and watch the highlights later on. So if you're time poor, just get on the highlights, and everything is cast to catch, right? I roll all day, so it's not just watching me wind fish in. any smart-ass comments beforehand. I put in the bust-offs, any good bust-offs I put in there. Anything that I think I'd want to watch, I'd put in there. So, and if I've got the opportunity now, thanks to I've got about 230 members now that contribute a gold coin a month to help me have the Starlink. I've been running through the Starlink so that the coverage remains uninterrupted, and it's been pretty awesome. The only place that hasn't been awesome is Sydney, and maybe that's because a lot of people use Starlinks in Sydney. I don't know, but the more rural it is, the better it is, and I really appreciate the channel members for doing that. Normally, channel members get to see the highlights a bit earlier as well, and I've got a few sneaky Mulloway videos there that I paywall behind a members thing as well. So,
yeah, I was going to say there's a couple of, I think there's a new one up or one recently. So, yeah, the other thing I was going to say, because I did watch a bit on Saturday morning, and you have a very unique way of holding the brim and not putting hooks in your hands. Well, sometimes you do.
Well, I reckon I've been a bit Brett Geddes like recently, and I've been keeping pretty solid diaries, and I catch between 500 and 1,000 brim a year normally, and I've been brim fishing solidly for the last 30 years. So I reckon of 30,000 brim, I've probably stabbed myself 1,000 times. So I've learnt the way to stab yourself the least. And look, people do it in different ways, but I'll normally hold the brim up and I'll try to get the brim firstly underneath. Well, sometimes I have to pin him against my shirt. Sometimes I pin him against the ground. But I'll try to get the fish with my thumb ahead of the first dorsal fin, so I can hold it there. And sometimes I have a thing called saddleback syndrome, which is a little curve there, and your thumb fits in there really nicely. But then usually my middle finger will sit behind the two pectoral spines. So they've got two big, a yellowfin especially has massive big pec spines. So I get the second hand in there, and then the third finger can go in front of those pectoral spines. So I nearly get them in this sort of triangulated grip. And then I can hold it. I can show it to the camera. I can get the hook out. And no matter how much the brim wiggles its tail, I've got it around the head, right? You don't want to grab it in the tail side. You get it in that 3 spots where there are no spikes. And once you get it there, you've got him. And he's not going to spike you. So I can take the hook out. I can grab the pliers to take the hook out. I can show the camera. And with any luck, it won't jump overboard. They do spike you in sometimes when you're trying to upgrade them. And the way you know you've had a good day is when you've had a Tweed event, the palm of your hand gets all the spikes in it from upgrading. But when you're in Tassie, it's up here. It's up in the height. The bigger the brim are, the higher it goes up your arm. So after a day upgrading in Tassie, all the spikes that get you in the hand, you're holding there, but they can still get you with spikes. So if I've got it look like I've been jabbing needles in my arm, it's been a good big fish day somewhere.
You've had a great day. Fair enough.
And again, you can watch that on the highlights. If you want to see how to hold them, then that's just the way that works for me. Everyone's different. I know, like guys like Jamie, he likes tipping them out on the ground and attacking on the ground, or if it's a small one, some of the guys like putting it under their arm or getting the forearm. Mitch Nichols, I see he puts it against his chest with his forearm and he gets the hook out like that and doesn't even hold the fish. But I think I'd stink pretty bad if I was doing too much against my shirt.
That's exactly right. I know Joseph Gardner does it too, because when he looked at the tournament shirts, he's like, oh, that's going to get all brim holes in it. So
yeah, see, mine don't get brim holes in it. Although I had Byron Hill as a non-boater once in the Brim Grand Final, and I noticed he did it by putting it between his legs, and it's like, man, there's too much going on for it to put between my legs. I'd stink. It'd put holes in my buck and bass, and an errant hook would go straight into me old fella.
Man, that's not a good plan, mate.
No, none of those things I want.
No, none of that's good. All right, mate, let's roll into Sunday. So tell us, who do you have on the back of the boat?
I didn't have anyone on the Sunday, and sometimes that happens because I come in about an hour earlier than I should. So if someone comes with me on the Sunday, if there's an opportunity to have a spare, Nicole will often put it on so that there's a non-boater not missing out on an hour and a half extra fishing time. So my finish time was 2:40. I came in at about 1:40 to just get the scales ready and get ready for the weigh-ins. I really enjoy an app event because in an app event, I don't have to come in early. Nicole just keeps an eye on the scoreboard. There's no fish to weigh. So I really enjoy if I catch an upgrade in the last half hour of an app tournament, it's like, I get to do this now. And looking back, it's like, maybe I could have got one upgrade in the last hour and not have a tie. But that's the parameters I set for myself, and that's what I fish under. So that's what happens. And look, no one in the back of the boat, it usually means that I'm much more interactive with the people on the live stream. So I don't read comments or anything like that, but I do talk my way through a lot of stuff. When I do my highlights, it's like, there's no one in the boat with me, but I've said 10,000 words today. So,
fair enough.
So if you listen to a transcript, it'd be just me talking to myself all day. But often I talk through it, and I find that process good. Both for the people on the live stream but also just for myself, just talking through what I'm doing is having a conversation with someone that half knows what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right, let's roll into it then. Tell us about your day.
It was a much better start, actually. I mucked around a little bit with a bit of stuff in the main river, some off the beat spots, maybe half an hour. They were all rubbish. So I went and once the tide started moving, I started on that Turanora arm and I got 2 fish that were in my final bag in the first 10 minutes up there.
Wow.
So the first one was a 30 forker that came out of, literally I threw into this suicide cast into this snag, saw the fish came out, I hit him, he swam literally straight out the 1 foot gap and started fighting in the river. For about 3 seconds, got him in. So bang, 30 centimetres straight away. Second one was identical, another 100 metres up the bank. I threw into this snag. And with the aqua, it's great. You can just waft it across the top of all of the sticks that are all coming across. And then when you think it's a safe enough spot, you can drop it. So I'd waddle across the top of the sticks. You see the bream come out. As soon as it's in an area where I think there's a clear line of sight between me and it, I'll drop the line. I'll tell it to eat it. It'll eat it. I'll hit it as hard as I can and I'll start winding. And that thing will just skip across the surface and bang, that was a 28 in there. So in the first, within the first hour, I had 2 Tweed River kickers, a 28 and a 30.
Nice.
After that, I just started running all the little off the beat round the corner spots again and had a limit probably by maybe 8 o'clock or 8:30, pretty early in the day again. And as I'm moving up with the tide, I'm moving up and catching a few fish in the main channel. I'm seeing a lot more boat traffic than day one. And that's cool because if people tried their spawn fish and they didn't work, they've got to try somewhere else. But it got to the point where there was a boat on every sort of bit of stuff I wanted to fish. I fished a few little back channels, but I said, you know what, now's the time to go up and fish those fish in the top half of the river that I haven't even touched since the practice day. So got all the stuff together. It's probably a 20-kilometre run to the top of the river. Nice run up the river, went all the way up to the top into Mawilumbar. There's a massive big fig tree with a snag under it that I'd thrown a lure in on the practice day and I'd shaken the fish off. I put the trolley motor down there and I could just hear the fish just like chopping. Like you could see the little prawns were jumping and there were bass and bream just chopping into these prawns. I go, oh, that's awesome. So I threw a crank in. I hooked one onto crankbait. It fell off. I said, screw that, they're shrimps. I picked up the hybrid shrimp. I threw in. I think I hooked a bass that I tried to lift out of the water with 2-pound line. I broke the line, tied another hybrid shrimp on. I reckon I caught another 3 or 4 fish while they were chopping. And I could see them on live sonar as well, but they were all just sitting 2 feet under the water surface. As soon as there was a shrimp on the surface, they'd all race up and fight each other for it. And the bite only stopped when I caught one fish that I had to net and all the whole school followed it out and then they sort of hang around the boat. So you're in trouble and you wanted to say, shoo back into the snag there, boys, but they're sort of onto you when they sit around the boat then. So I reckon that I would have got in 10 minutes 3 or 4 legals, bang, 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 out of that snag. So that justifies the big run up the river, right? So from that, I just, I was waiting for that tide to turn. Unfortunately, not only is it 50 minutes later every day, the tide, but for some reason it took a lot longer to turn up at the river on that second day, maybe different height tides or whatever. And it wasn't until the last hour that I actually got a consistent bite going. As soon as the tide turned and it started running out, I got a couple of nice ones, might have been upgrades. But then right at the end, I think I upgraded once or twice in my last sort of 10 or 15 minutes. So I know one of the snags, I caught a 30 on the day before, that last minute upgrade on the day before. I said, I caught a kicker on this yesterday. I threw in there. I said, let's do it again. And I drifted it under there and bang, I got another upgrade under it. It wasn't a 30. If it was a 30, I would have gone close to winning the tournament, retrospectively. But yeah, I did get another upgrade at the end and that upgrade was good enough to get me into that 3-way tie. But again, all of those fish on aquas, I caught one. I would always pick up a crankbait on my BFS rod if it was a snag or some sort of heavy structure, or I thought maybe I just need something to pull them out of the structure a bit deep. So I did catch one on one of my duo, one of the prototype duo cranks that I've got. I think they're going to come out after. I love a chartreuse colour in them in that sort of semi-stained water. It's something I've gone back to and it's really successful for me at the moment, that chartreuse colour. But yeah, 2.2 on the second day was still sort of par for what I thought. And yeah, got in early, set the scales up and as always, I'm leading the event on the second day because I'm the only one that's weighed in. I weigh in first and it was a matter of the guys having to catch me. And of course, Sam Peck did exactly that. I think I was sitting in about 4th or 5th maybe after the first day. And then Sam just got over me and then Chris tied with me and the other Chris tied with me. And I go, well, that's actually if all of us knew that, we would have all fished a lot harder maybe on the second day for an extra 5 grams.
I was going to say you just needed one upgrade, anything.
Yeah, but they needed it as well. So, and I did have a 26 forker in my bag on the second day, and you'd do anything to upgrade that to say a 28 because there's the win right there. And you think 28's not a big fish, but in the Tweed it sort of is a kicker because everyone catches a lot of 23 to 25 forkers, and those 28 to 30s or 32s, they're gold in that joint. And like all tournaments, it's not how big your bag is, it's how big it is compared to everyone else. So in the Tweed, 2 kilos par. That's just how it is. In the harbour, 3 to 3.5 kilos par. In Gippsland, 5 kilos par.
Yeah.
That's just how brimming it is around the country.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so in terms of the tournament, mate, you got most of your fish from what I can understand on the aqua.
8 or 9 out of 10 would have been on the aqua, 1 on a crankbait, maybe 1 on a hybrid shrimp. Not sure how it all panned out in the end, but definitely the Tweed for me is a place I love fishing aquas. Whenever possible, I love sight fishing, right? And that's a really good way to sight fish. Good way to get your lure right into some nasty country and always exciting when you hook up.
Very, very good. All right, mate, enough to put you in third place. What did you take home for this one?
It was a great first place check. I think it was about 3.7 for first. Third was around 1,200, and I took home a third place Mercury bonus, another $75 on the top there. So on my wall at the office here, I've just got a big wall full of Merc bonuses that I love showing AB from Mercury. Every time he rings up on FaceTime, I'll just show him to him. So there you go, mate. Thanks for all those.
Yep.
And that's how Merc works, right? They don't sponsor people really. They say if you're good enough, we'll give ABT 8 to 10 grand a year and you can go win some of that. And the guys that have got Mercs and that do well, they do win some of that. That's how it works.
Yeah. No, that's very, very good. All right. Mate, last thing then before we shoot off, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
All of the new guys that turned up. There were so many new guys and new old guys came back. There was a lot of, it always takes me about 3 events to learn people's names. And I apologise if I don't know your name straight away, but I get it after a few events. The guys that turned up that haven't been there for a while, hadn't seen Sammy Peck for a while. And look, you'll talk to Sam. Great story about what he's spending his winnings on. You're going to get onto that. But good to see a lot of people coming out of the woodwork and either trying ABT or coming back to ABT. Well, you're all welcome.
How good to see.
Oh, and a final shout out. It was Nicole's birthday on the Saturday. So I think she narrowly missed everyone singing happy birthday to her at the start. I was thinking about it, but I thought, maybe I won't be able to handle the heat I'll get for the next few days if I make everyone sing happy birthday to her. So big thanks for Nicole to hold it all together back at base camp and getting it done. And of course, Crush City was the naming sponsor. They released some of their new afterbaits at the briefing. Everyone got to have a look at them and touch and feel them, and no one was allowed to take photos of them. So if you made it to the briefing, you got to see some cool stuff that's coming out from Crush City.
Very good. And look, on that sort of note, how's Timmy going?
Yeah, the Timmy update is he went in for a triple bypass. They gave him a 2 bypass and a clean out. He was home about maybe 4 or 5 days in. He was at home. He's at home now and he's working from home and not allowed to pick up anything over 2 or 1.5 kilos for the next month. I said, well, you can go brim fishing, mate, because you don't catch 2 keggers up this way. Even a whole bag of them doesn't weigh 2 kilos. So he's recovering well and says g'day to everyone who's asking about it. So
very, very good. All right, Steve. Oh, thanks for jumping on again. And, mate, we'll talk to you on the next one, no doubt.
Thanks, Stevie.
Thanks, mate. Okay, so next up in second place in the boating division, we have an angler dropping 3 fish, but just over 3 kilos at 3.080, backing it up on day 2 with 1.615, giving him a total of 4.695. And second place, I have Chris Lonnie. Welcome back to the show, mate.
G'day, Andrew. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no worries, mate. You and I have had a few chats. I think didn't you take out a Queensland Open?
I did many moons ago. Yeah, 2023 was the golden year, but since then it's sort of slowed down a bit.
Yeah, but still good, mate. Once you've got one, you've got one.
Yeah, that's it.
So yeah, and I would imagine, I know your mates with Sam. It must have been nice to see your mate take out a win.
Absolutely. As I said on the presentation day, if there's anyone who was going to beat me, I'm glad it's Sammy.
Yeah, so good. All right, let's talk about pre-fishing, mate. What did you get up to?
So we went down. I actually went down with Sam on 2 weeks prior to the event. There was a Queensland Team Series event that was meant to be held that weekend, but it got called off because it was going to be crazy windy. But I just said the QTS is meant to be on the Saturday, so I ended up working that day, and then we just decided to go down and have a look on the Sunday. He just said if it's too windy, we'll bail. It wasn't as windy as forecast, but it was still got up pretty gnarly towards the end of the day. But yeah, me and Sam went down. We just fished some of the usual sort of haunts. I usually prefer when I'm there to fish like the Fingal Wall sort of area.
Oh, yeah.
But that was pretty well, up to the boat ramp was pretty well as far as we got before it sort of got a bit too blowy. And then we were just like, we'll retreat back to the Terra Nora where it's a bit more protected. We did pick up a couple of fish along that Fingal Wall area. And then towards the lower end, we got quite a few. So, yeah, there was definitely more fish there 2 weeks prior to the event than what there was in the comp.
Okay. Did you work out any patterns?
No, not really. Like nothing sort of out of the ordinary, not along Fingal Wall anyway. We wanted to spend some time up the Terra Nora, so I don't usually fish it, but it always sort of plays in these ABT events. And so, yeah, we sort of just got a few on plastics, I got a good one on a crank there. And then, yeah, we just headed up to Terra Nora.
All right, so let's roll into comp day. So you got a really good bag for this competition. Tell us about your day. How'd you put that together?
Yeah, so I did pre-fish on the pre-fish day as well before the comp. Had a quick look around again on Fingal Wall, but it just looked like there was fish there, but just not biting at all, just completely shut down. Super, super clear water. And just coming off the full moon as well, it just felt like it just wasn't, like when it's on there when you're fishing it, and it just wasn't on. And so I just went through and had a look at the trawlers and the canals, because we did get a few the 2 weeks earlier in those canals and like half decent fish as well. So yeah, so I just went through on pre-fish and just threw some cranks around just to see what I could sort of see in terms of like follows and how many bites I was getting. I usually sort of fish hookless if I'm cranking structure on pre-fish day.
Yeah, okay. How do you find that?
Yeah, it's good. It's you obviously can't do it everywhere, and I don't do it in places where I don't have an idea, like a prior knowledge of the area. I wouldn't go to a new venue and fish hookless or anything, but in like canals and boats and stuff that I know that there's usually fish on, it's good. Yeah, 'cause obviously you save those fish for comp day.
Yeah, okay.
And yeah, basically I pre-fished with my mate Jake, and yeah, we saw a few fish on the trawlers, saw a few fish in the canals, and then around the corner from the trawlers there's like another marinery sort of dock setup that you're allowed to fish. So I went in there, checked a few boats in there, and yeah, there was sort of fish that were coming out and chasing it. So I thought, yeah, well, this is probably gonna play, probably worthwhile going straight in here and see what I can rustle up.
Okay, so that set your game plan then.
Yeah, pretty well. I was just like in an ideal world, I was hoping to get a bag early, but that definitely was far from what happened on the day.
Okay, all right. Well, like I said before, mate, you did actually get onto a few decent fish. Tell us about how that actually happened.
Yeah, so I went straight into the canals. There was a couple of boats already on the trawlers, which I thought was probably going to happen anyway. Went into the canals, rinsed pretty well all of the good boats and the good pontoons with cranks and stuff, and got one fish. I think he was maybe 27.4. Okay. But it was quite slow, like no follows, like just it was just pretty dead. And I was sort of starting to think like, oh, this isn't great. And then rolled around to the marina section, hit that, didn't get anything like fish. There's a couple of boats in there that I know like hold good ones, and usually you'll get one off them, and there was nothing. It was just like I might have had a few hits, like 3 or 4 hits on those boats. So I was like, okay, so there is fish there, but they're not ready to bite properly.
Yeah, okay.
So it was like they were just nosing the cranks. And then so I hit all those boats, and then there was not much happening. I might have gone through the trawlers, hit them once. I think I got smoked like big time under one of the boats there by something, or by like a big brim. And then I don't remember what time that was, but I think I went back into the canals. I was planning just to like really pepper that area and just sort of, be as, I don't know, just break it down as much as I could. So I was throwing cranks and then I was flicking aquas into the smaller gaps and stuff like that. But by then it was sort of 12 o'clock. Still only had one fish in the well. And I was thinking, I was starting to stress a little bit. Like, I think I'd gone out to the Boyd's Bay Bridge. That's what it was. I'd gone out to the Boyd's Bay Bridge, caught nothing there. It was dead. Like, there were fish there, but just not biting. And then, went back along the trawlers there. And I think I got 3 fish off like one drift. So I cast in the crank, cranked one up. And then very next cast, threw back in, got a 31 forker on a crab.
Nice.
I was like, okay, sweet. Something's starting to happen. You know, you've got a couple, like I think I had 3 in the well then. I was like, okay, so this is doable now. And then finished off that drift on the trawlers. I might have got another like 23 or 24. And I think by the time I rolled around to the marina, I had a bag. And by this time it was getting on. Like, it would have been like maybe, I think I had a 2:40. I had to be back by 2:40 and I left at about 2:20. So it would have been like maybe 1:30 or something.
Yeah, okay.
And one of the boats had come back in from, it's like a some sort of like Tweed tour boat or something.
Sure.
Had come back in and I came along it and cranked the outside of it and pulled a 29 forker.
Okay.
And I was like, sweet.
So that's a bag.
Yeah, that was the first upgrade, I think, the first decent upgrade. And then I threw an aqua in between it and the pontoon and got a 31 forker.
Okay.
Just like, this is getting good. And then went through, hit a bunch more boats and then threw a crank up like this shaded area right next to a pontoon boat and got, this was pretty well like right at the death as well, and got a 32 forker, like biggest fish of the day.
Wow.
I was like, oh my God, this is stressful. And then had to sort of race back, upgrade him, race back. And that was pretty much the day. Like, it wasn't a massive abundance of fish, but there was sort of just enough good ones.
100%. Well, like you said, 12 o'clock, I think one fish in the well, then to come back out in with a 3 kilo bag on a tough comp is pretty amazing.
Yeah. Like, I didn't, by any means, at 12 o'clock, I did not think that was going to be the case.
No, it's funny because when you go fishing, like sometimes you get the fish in the first hour and sometimes you get them in the last hour. So in a comp day, it just becomes another level of stress.
Yeah, I much prefer the whole first hour scenario if I can get it.
Fair enough. And with you, a couple of things. So with your aqua, are you on a worm hook like Morgo, or are you fishing it with a?
Oh, I usually fish them on like a 1/40th most of the time, 1/40th or a 1/50th. Yeah.
So just super light, but enough to get it down a bit quicker.
Yeah.
And your crankbait, what's your crankbait of choice at the moment?
Yeah, Daiwa spikes have been doing good things for me lately. They just seem to go down like a little bit deeper, and a lot of those hulls and those trawlers a little bit deeper than usual than say like your generic sort of canal pontoons.
Sure.
And that's what pretty much did the trick for me.
Yeah, just getting it into the zone.
Yeah. And they cast like a bullet. Like they cast they cast really, really well.
Very good. And do you have a favourite colour pattern at this point?
There's a couple that I like. One's like a I don't know what the actual colours are. One's like a it's like a bluey green, and it sort of looks like a hardy head.
Okay.
Like really similar colour to that green sort of bait fish that you see around, definitely around the hulls and stuff around Queensland. I'm not sure about New South Wales.
All right. So as it turns out, good enough to put you, although it's a tough day, was good enough to put you in first spot overnight. What were you thinking overnight? Because sometimes when you don't get a lot, it's hard to go into the second day, obviously.
Yeah, I'd said to, because I was staying with Sam and Jake, and I'd sort of said to him, I'm like, I think if I get a limit, I should be able to get it across the line, because I thought, based on the fish that I caught, the average size of them was a lot better than most other areas. But as it turned out, that wasn't the case on the second day.
No, but I mean, on the bright side of things, you did put a limit together, and a lot of people in the comp didn't do that. So that's obviously good. Tell us about your day. Tell us about how you put those ones together.
The second day. So, yeah, mate, it was pretty well just rinse and repeat. I knew, obviously, from the first day that there's a good chance they were going to bite late again, but I had the earlier finish. Like I had a 2 o'clock finish instead of the 2:40. So I thought that could have been a bit of an issue. And, yeah, I pretty much just rinsed, like absolutely rinsed those 3 areas all over again and just sort of kept trying to tell myself just to sort of really pick it apart and be like fish it as slow as you can, as slow as I could to sort of just hit every nook and cranny basically. And yeah, it was kind of fun, like throwing the crank into some pretty gnarly little spots, like in between moored boats where there's like probably 150 mil gap of water between the 2 boats. Like, and don't worry, I did lose a couple of cranks to stray casts, but I just, the plan was just to pick it apart. And yeah, that's pretty much what I did. I started on the boat where I'd got those upgrades the day before.
Yeah.
I think maybe I think I pulled hooks on one there that felt half decent, actually.
Right.
Early on in the morning, I was like, oh, that's all good. It's like, at least they're biting. But then, yeah, same sort of deal, mate. It was slow as, like, went through pretty much every boat in that whole marina, every trawler, and then just like bit by bit, I'd get one on an aqua or I'd get one on a crank. And I think by 12 o'clock the next day I had a limit, but it was pretty measly.
Yeah. Did you get any upgrades, like, or would you just fill your limit?
Nah, it was literally just filled the limit. Yeah, did drop a few, but it's is what it is, unfortunately.
It is what it is, yeah.
Sure, everyone has those stories over the weekend.
Definitely, and it ended up in the unusual position of 3 people tied essentially in second place and then split by the biggest bag.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know. Yeah, I've never seen that happen before in a comp. But yeah, stoked that I was on the top of the 3-way tie.
100% good to be on the top end of it. Well, somebody has to be.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it was very, very good. Very cool. All right, mate, for the weekend, what sort of leaders were you running? How heavy were you fishing?
I was just fishing 6-pound Rock FC the whole weekend. I was kind of caught in 2 minds. Like in my head, I was thinking, it might actually be advantageous to drop down to like a 4-pound leader or something. But then after I got smoked by that big one on day one, I was like, is it worth it? So I just sort of stayed with the 6-pound that I usually fish.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, mate. Well, all in all, like we said, you end up in second place. What did you get to take home for second place?
It was a $1,900 cash prize, plus I think it was $125 Mercury bonus. Got my badge, which is handy. Gotta love the badges.
I love the badge.
And then, yeah, the bit of a novelty Mercury bonus check.
Oh, very good. That's very tidy for a weekend's fishing with your mates.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Very good. All right, mate. Well, look, last thing before we shoot off, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to or say thank you to?
Yeah, definitely. So probably first and foremost, my wife, who was at home with our 1-year-old all weekend doing the hard yards. Also, the boys that I stayed with and all the boys that we usually catch up with when we're away, Jake, Sam, Kashi, John Siggs, Harry, the whole gang. Definitely ABC for putting on the events. Nicole and Steve, yeah, they run such a good event and make it, so easy to just rock up and fish and have a good weekend away with your mates. Also, Matty at Baramba Lures, he sorts me out with cranks. Usually I'll be throwing his stuff, but it was more of a, I usually use his stuff for the rock wall stuff, which is where I prefer it. But now I know the secret's out and there's a crank coming out shortly. I haven't got my hands on him yet, but yeah, it looks pretty good for the pontoons and the boats. So I'm pretty keen to get my hands on. And then just
Sam had a couple, didn't he?
He did. Maybe that was the difference. I don't know. And then just you, Deethy, mate, for like publicising our sport and what we do. It's good to get a bit of a spotlight on it.
Mate, appreciate that. And likewise, mate, when you guys coming on and having a chat, obviously there's nothing happens without you guys, so I appreciate that too.
Oh, no dramas, mate.
Very good. All right, mate. Well, look, congratulations on another good result. Yeah, congratulations on a little bub, mate. That's so good.
Cheers, mate. Cheers. Yeah, thanks.
All right. Fantastic, mate. You have a good night and thanks for jumping on.
Cheers, DC. See you, mate.
All right, so coming in first place in the boated division, we have an angler dropping his 5 fish on the Saturday for 2.610. On the Sunday, he backed it up with a bag of 2.17 kilos, giving him a total of 4.78 and first place. I have Sam Peck. Welcome back to the show, mate.
Thanks, Andrew.
Mate, first place in an ABT, you got to get a couple of weeks buzz out of this.
Yeah, definitely. It's super exciting, but to be honest, like with just how the weekend went, it felt like the whole weekend I wasn't going to win because I wasn't catching very big fish, but it just was enough in the end, which was very surprising to me and I think a lot of other people.
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough comp, but obviously someone's got to win it, and you obviously put the right fish in the bag, take it out by a small margin, which is kind of cool. But yeah, waking up Monday morning, I'm sure you woke up and you went, oh yeah, that's right, I won.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, absolutely. I got up and then I had the winner's check in my room. So yeah, it was it's still, I don't know. I'm thinking about it now. I'm just like, I'm starting to get thoughts like, maybe I might not win one of these tournaments. I don't know if I'm good enough to win one, but just surprising that that's how it happened, and it happened on that weekend.
Yeah,
So.
That's perfect. Whereabouts are you from? Were you local up there?
From Brisbane.
Brisbane. Okay, so a bit of a drive.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. All right, let's go into pre-fish. What did you get up to? Did you get down there on the Friday and have a look around?
I didn't pre-fish on the Friday, but I did go down with Chris Lonnie a couple of weeks before the event, just before the pre-fish ban there, and we just had a bit of a look around. It was more just a social fish, and I think that weekend there was like 25 or 30 knot winds. So we didn't actually, it was really windy that weekend. We didn't actually get to do a lot of fishing on the main river because it was so windy. So we ended up just trying like Terranora Reef, some canals, the bridge, but the seaway was definitely out. And it just happens that this tournament, the seaway was out anyway.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah, we got to have a bit of a look around. We caught a couple of good fish. I think we caught a 33 forker and another one that I don't think he measured it, but I think it was a 35 or something like that. Sure. I didn't catch any good fish that weekend.
Okay.
But yeah, we sort of realised that there was some fish in the canals and they were pretty easy. So yeah, that was the pre-fish basically.
That was your pre-fish. And with the canals, what's your go-to? What's your go-to technique?
Normally for the canals, depends on the time of the year, but generally I like cranking canals. It's a technique that I've sort of recently learnt and it works pretty well. And I'm still getting better at it. There's still a few things I need to figure out. I've changed a few of my rods around so I don't pull hooks as much anymore. I like a lot softer rod now because it was just when I was learning to crank, I just was doing them on a little bit heavier rod and that wasn't working. I kept pulling hooks and then I had to figure out that it was actually the rod and I needed a softer rod. So I'm still learning cranking, but I think that's probably my preferred technique in the canals. I do like fishing surface, but that's not always the best in winter. But you can still catch them. That's the thing. And it happens that I did actually catch a few on surface this weekend as well.
Yeah, okay. That's very, very cool. All right, let's roll into Saturday. So you end up with a good bag, even though you didn't feel like it necessarily. Tell us about your day. How'd you go about getting a few?
Yeah, so Saturday, I spoke to the boys the night before just in the accommodation and I said, I think I might just run up to those canals and just crank them quickly. And then I'll come out and I'll just work the main river and see if I can get a few upgrades. And they thought, that'd be a pretty good plan. Chris was going to do a pretty similar thing. So that's what I did. Just straight away from the start, I ran up to the Chindera canals. They're up past the bridge. And Mick Horn was in there
Okay.
as well. He sort of got there first, and he went to one side of the canals and I just started on the other side. And I just started cranking the canals. I think I caught a fish on my second or third pontoon in, and it was actually a reasonable one, I guess. In terms of the weekend, it was a reasonable one. It was a 28 forker.
Yep.
So that was actually a good start. And then I just kept working around the canals. I had a bag by sort of 8 o'clock. And I think I maybe upgraded once or twice in those canals. But I came out of the canals by 9 o'clock having pretty much my weigh-in bag.
Wow. But I think in our chat before, like you were like, okay, it's a bag, but it's an average bag. But in the context of the competition, that wasn't true. It was actually a pretty decent bag.
Yeah. It's quite funny because when I came out of those canals, and the whole weekend, I felt like there was no way I was even close to being able to win because the fish I had were so small. And normally, like previous comps on the Tweed River, you need 3.5 kilos to even get close to the top of the leaderboard. I came out of those canals with 2.5 kilos and I was like, oh, that's nowhere near going to be good enough. And then I fished the main section of the river for the rest of the day and I didn't catch anything. So it was a bit like the river was completely shut down and I think we were all surprised on how badly it fished. And then I ended up at the end of the day just running over to the Terranora canals and I was just going to give them a quick crank because I had nothing else. Everything I tried, there was no fish.
Yeah.
And I got into those canals and there was just one pontoon that we pulled up on and I cranked it and I ended up getting I think it was like a 32 forker.
Wow.
But he was a really old fish. He was real old and skinny, but still was definitely an upgrade to the bag. And that was it. That was the only other fish I caught that day that ended up going into my bag. And I think that probably got me up to that 2.6 kilo mark. And that was it. And the whole day I just sort of fished going, this is not going to be my day. It's not going to be enough.
Yeah.
And then when I weighed in at the end of the day to be in third, I was very surprised. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Now, with your pontoons and what have you, tell me about how you were cranking them. Like, what do you actually do and what's your lure of choice at the moment?
Yeah, so I use a couple of different lures. I use a Bundy Bros 42 and I also use a Daiwa Spike, the MR or the EXDR. That was just the lure those were the two lures that were I just looked in my tackle box and they were the ones that I think they had the best hooks on them, to be honest.
Fair enough.
I had no free fish. I didn't know what the canals were doing. So I just tied those on. They're normally really good cranking lures. I use them on the Gold Coast all the time.
Yeah.
So those ones, basically with those, I tune them a little bit. So I bend the toe point just that little bit. I normally just bend it the one way. So I'll go around the canal in one direction.
Sure.
And I'm always swimming that lure under in the one direction. But basically with the cranking, you're just throwing up in front of the pontoon. You're winding that lure down. And because you've bent the toe point, it's just swims under the pontoon that little bit. And that's basically all I did. I ran a 4-pound leader in those canals.
Yes,
and normally I run it is very light. And normally you want a slightly heavier leader because your line is constantly contacting the pontoon. If there's any barnacles or shells on it, you'll get nicks in it.
Yeah.
So you do need a slightly heavier leader. But this weekend, because those pontoons in there's nothing on them. They're completely clear.
They're barren. Yeah.
Yeah, probably just the time of the year. Normally they've got oysters on them. But that was clear. I ran a light leader and I didn't break a fish off all weekend. But
wow.
That was basically what I did with the cranking. And then the other lure that I use is it's a Baramba flats dog. It's a surface lure.
Yep.
It's a walking, like a pencil, I guess, like a walking surface lure. And that one I was just casting basically onto the bank and then I'd wind it into the water and then I just sort of fish it past the poles on the pontoon or down the side of pontoons or any bit of structure that you couldn't really crank properly.
Yeah.
I'd fish a surface lure on. And middle of winter, you're thinking it's probably not the time to be doing it, but there is the occasional brim that's stupid enough to have a go at it. And it actually happened on the first day. It happened, I think I had 2 or 3 on surface.
Okay.
One of them was a good one. It was a 30 centimetre, and that ended up in my day one bag.
In the bag, yeah. That's pretty good. 2 of your lures are out of the Bramber bait stable and one from Daiwa. With the flats dog, I think I saw you on Talking to Morgo, and that's got stingers on it rather than trebles. Is that right?
It does, yeah. Yeah, so it comes standard with, I think they're called assist hooks or so, but yeah, they're basically like a stinger hook. They're just a single hook on a strand of cord, but they come standard with those. So if the brim are a little bit finicky,
yeah,
they will often just sort of kiss the lure. And normally, if the hooks are hanging down a little bit underneath the lure, you get a little bit better hookup with those single hooks. And having a single hook in there, I think in general is probably a better thing.
Yeah, I think you definitely don't pull as many out. Once they're in, they're usually in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good. All right. Well, look, all in all, Saturday it was good enough to bring you back with 2.6, third place. You would have been pretty happy with that, I'd imagine.
I was pretty happy with that. Yeah, it was. Chris was a fair way in front. He had a really good day, and then back at the accommodation, he said he was on some pretty big fish. So I wasn't really thinking too much about day 2. I might have told him that I'm going to try my best to ruin his day, tomorrow.
That's it. I'm going to run you down.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think he took much notice of it, but
that's what happened. All right, let's roll into Sunday. What was the plan, mate? You're going to go and just do it again? I guess you're probably going to stick to canals.
Yeah, we had Jacob staying with us, and I spoke to Jacob, and Jacob just goes, you're an idiot if you're not going back to those canals and doing that again.
Yeah.
He's a good fisherman too. So, yeah, he just said, go back to him, crank him again. Maybe at least you get a bag out of him.
Mm.
And that's exactly what happened. I just went straight back to those canals. On day 1, I started last. So on day 2, it was kind of nice.
Why'd you start last?
Oh, I missed the briefing. I had to work and I missed the briefing, which is that's the ABT rules. If you miss the briefing, you've got to start last. So fair enough. But it was nice to start on day 2 in third and be able to get to the canals first. And surprisingly, no one came back to the canals. Maybe they thought, canals on day 2, they're going to be pressured.
Sure.
And normally they shut down. Normally you can't get a fish out of them. Once you've hit them, they're normally not the same for a couple of days at least.
Yeah.
But it started a lot slower on day 2. I ended up cranking them again and working my way around the canals. I think probably half of the pontoons that I caught fish on day 1, I actually caught fish on day 2.
Okay.
I got half the amount of bites, half the amount of fish. It was definitely pressured.
Yeah, okay.
And had shut down. And that was the thing with the surface lure. I tried the surface lure on day 2 and I didn't even get a bite on it.
Yeah, right.
So those Bream, they're not stupid. They know what's up. So
yeah, something's going on. Okay, so with your cranks, was there a particular colour? I think you had a new lure where there was a new colour, but what sort of pattern were you running?
Yeah, I mainly just ran translucent colours all weekend just because it was, I think probably I could have run any colour, to be honest. I think it's more that technique that works.
Yeah.
But I just ran translucent colours that weekend. It was just what I did.
Yeah.
And it's a bit more natural, I guess. And it probably helped me on day 2 when they were a little bit shut down. I definitely think the fresh hooks on day 2 helped.
Okay.
Having sharp hooks on day 2 because there was a lot of short striking going on.
Sure.
Not a lot of missed hookups and stuff like that.
Mm.
And then once you had a bite on a pontoon, if you made another cast, you wouldn't get a bite.
Okay.
So they wouldn't come back. Day 2, it was a lot tougher. And then I did the exact same thing on day 2. I ended up running over to Terra Nora again, and I ended up getting another upgrade over there.
Okay.
in the afternoon. So it was pretty much identical days. Day 1 and day 2, I did the same thing. Even tried the natural structure in the main river and I didn't catch anything.
Yeah, right. Okay. So 4 pound leader. What sort of rod are you running with that?
Yeah, so I've changed. I normally run Miller rods.
Yeah.
But I've changed over to the Daiwas just for the cranking. It's the only reason I use a Daiwa for the cranking is because I can get a really soft rod. And that's what Steve was talking about, that parabolic bend in the rod.
Yeah.
When you do hook up, the rod just is so soft that you're not putting a lot of pressure on the fish.
Yeah.
Even if you're trying to be gentle, sometimes with a stronger rod, you can still pull hooks.
Mm.
But yeah, I just use a Daiwa. I think it's a 722. It's a ULRS or something like that.
That's right.
URLS.
Yeah, the blue one,
Yep.
I think.
The blue one, that's it. And it's a 722. You just get a nice long cast with that, with a longer rod. And it's a very soft rod. I just run a Daiwa reel on it. I think most guys run Daiwa reels. I run 10-pound atomic braid on there and
cool.
a Yamatoya
The
4
Chinu
pound leader.
Harris. Yep.
Chinu Harris. Yep, that's it.
Yeah, very good. All right. And across the weekend, did you lose any fish? Did you lose any fish that would have made a difference?
I don't think so.
You won anyway, but...
Yeah, exactly. I don't think so. I got busted off on the reef. It was actually the one good fish I think I hooked in the river all weekend. Yeah. And it busted me off so quick that it could have been anything.
It could have been
really
anything.
Know.
Yeah.
It felt pretty big, you know?
Yeah.
And it felt kind of like what a brim would
definitely
do.
A brim.
Yeah. So, but no, I don't think so. I didn't get busted by any fish. I did miss a few fish on day 2 in the canals, just from pulling hooks or them just falling off just on the bite because they weren't biting it really, really good.
Yeah.
They were pressured. So probably day 2 a little bit, but that's to be expected, I think. Yeah. You can't really catch them all.
No, that's right. That's right. And look, like we said, at the end of the day, you did enough anyway. All right, mate. Your first ABT win, what did you get to take home?
Yeah, I think it was the main check was 3,700. And then I run a Mercury on the back of my boat. So I got the Mercury, first place Mercury bonus, which was another $250.
Nice. And you would have also got a little trophy and a badge.
Yeah, those trophies are the best, actually. I've got a non-boater one and I've now got a boater one. So they're in a trophy cabinet, which is pretty cool.
How good is that? All right, mate. Look, last thing before we shoot off, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to or say thank you to?
Yeah, absolutely. Steve and Nicole, ABT, they've always been really good to me. Just looking after me, just simply by just helping me with getting to learn tournaments.
Yeah.
I think Steve even said in the interview, it's probably a decade ago when I first met Steve and then got into ABTs, and it's taken 10 years to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
And fishing just in general. So yeah, obviously Steve and Nicole, the boys. So all the boys, the boys that I normally travel with. So that's Chris, Jacob and Harry. They're the main guys. And then obviously there's a whole heap of all the Queenslander fellas, Charlie Sakeo, John Siggs, they're all in there, and we normally meet up. And also Craig Templar as well. He runs our local tournament series.
Yeah, the QTS, yeah.
Yeah, and that's run on the Tweed. So without all those practices, you wouldn't be doing well in these events. And then obviously Matt Fraser from Baramba Lures, he looks after me a lot with lures and that. He makes a really good lure. I used them all weekend, that surface lure, Flats Dog, and the Bundy Bros. So yeah, Baramba Lures, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. He's definitely got into the brim market in the last few years now in a big way. So very, very good, mate. Well, look, congratulations on your first win, mate. Hang on to that feeling. It's pretty cool, especially the first one. And yeah, good luck in the next one.
Cheers. Appreciate it.
Thanks, mate. Okay, so I want to thank you guys for listening all the way through to the end. I really enjoyed this episode in terms of there was a lot of different stories, different ways of catching fish, which is sometimes unusual. Usually the Tweed round is often just to crank a crab. event, and it wasn't to be that much this weekend with a couple of different lures being used. Look, I hope you enjoyed it. If you're after a little bit more, jump onto the collective. Aside from that, I appreciate you joining in, and I will talk to you next time on the Lure Fishing Project.
Thanks for listening to the Lure Fishing Project. For extra episodes, the Big Bream series, and more, join us at the Lure Fishing Project Collective. We'll catch you next time.